Thank you, and good morning. Today is Monday, December the 5th. This is the regularly scheduled Cosmetology and Barber Board meeting. The notice of this meeting was properly put on the board's website and has been there since June 7th of 2021. This agenda was added to the board's website on Thursday, December the 1st, and so we will get started. Chairman Gillahan, I'll let you introduce everyone and kick us off, please.
Well, this meeting's called to order, and the first thing we'd like to do is to have a roll call, make sure we're all here.
Thank you. Anita Charlton? Here. Thank you. Frank Ambusa? Don't have Frank here. Ron Gillahan?
Here.
Monica Lemons? Here. Judy McAllister?
Here.
Jeffrey Moran? Here. Patricia Parsons? Parsons not here. Lane Petty? Here. Kimberly Ray? Ray's not here. Becky Russell?
Here.
Mona Sappenfield?
Here.
And Amy Tanksley? Okay, we have quorum and are able to proceed. Did I forget anyone? No, it's one of those days. I thought I'd check. Thank you, sir.
We'd like to take just a second to welcome our guests. Thank you guys for all being here today, participating in your state board meeting. We love to see folks in the audience here, and we're glad to have you. So Merry Christmas to everybody. At this time, we need to have approval of the October 2022 minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman Gill. And just in case some of our mics aren't working, I will double check and always read the motions if it's okay with everyone on the record. We have a motion by Ms. Amy Tanksley and a second by Judy McAllister to approve the minutes. All in favor, passed. Thank you. We will proceed with the agenda if that is okay with the board members. On your iPads, we start with those appearing before the board. And I will give everyone a minute to start with our first school that is being presented. You have on your iPad, starting on page 3, this is Proficient Nail Academy. It's a new specialty manicure school. Mr. Craig Charles is on the call participating and able to answer your questions. This school is located in Johnson City. Mr. Charles also owns Crown Cuts Academy in Johnson City. The application, floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan were all received timely.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Charles. How are you today?
Good morning. How are you doing today? I'm doing good.
Good. This is Proficient Nail Academy, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell us just a little bit about your proposal here this morning as we're getting started?
Proficient Nail Academy is just a school I wanted to start in downtown Johnson City to just kind of continue what I'm doing with the school. And I have a school in Johnson City as well, a barber school, and I also have a school in Bristol, Virginia. So I just want to add more resources and give more students opportunity who can't travel to my other school in Bristol, Virginia, where it'll be a little closer to them in Johnson City to get their certificate to become a manicurist.
Okay. The manicure program is going to be separate from your barber program, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Now, I think I'm familiar with you just a bit, and I'm certainly familiar with your barber schools. You have your manicure and staff in place for your instructors?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. As I was going through your file, Mr. Charles, there were a couple of notations that I had in here and maybe a couple of questions if I can go through my list here. In your enrollment agreement, I think that I see you have quite a lot of information in there, but in your enrollment agreement specifically, I found nothing that indicated whether the student attending was going to be a full or part-time student. I know that you do have a start date and a graduation date, but I didn't see a full or part-time designation, and I don't believe I saw the actual hours. I know you have your program, your daily schedule listed, your hours of business, but I don't see a daily schedule of how many hours a student is supposed to be there per day. Can you tell me where I might find that?
I have my assistant on the line. Natanya, are you on there?
Yes, I'm here. The hours were listed on page 1 of the enrollment form. Is that where you're having questions about?
Well, right. I see your business hours, and I'll say from 8 to 3:30, and the evening hours as well. But there's nothing to indicate what hours the individual student should be present. If I were to enroll in your program, am I going to be there on my schedule from 8 to 3:30, or is part-time schedule from 8 to noon? There's no indicator like that that I could find. So I think that would be important for the student to have in their records, and certainly for the state to know who should be present. Okay.
Yes, sir. We can fix that.
Hey, Ron.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
on page 59.
59 of hours.
It looks like it's on the brochure that they put together, the hours of operation for the day.
Right. That's actually on page 1 as well.
Okay.
It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different thing. So that if an inspector came in and you see who's supposed to be here during those hours, to see if they're attending or absent.
Got it.
Okay. What I'm pointing out here for you, Mr. Charles, real quick, is some things that are actually required to be in the enrollment agreement. You do have information about the total hours per week is 28, and the total weeks is 25. Okay, all right, I just missed that. So I see that on your application now. Are you intending to do instructor training in this program as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In your instructor information, I could not find anywhere, there is a requirement for you to indicate in the enrollment agreement for the instructors that there should be a statement that the instructor, enrollee, candidate, however you want to label that, has to be notified in advance in their enrollment agreement that they have to have been licensed as a manicurist, in your case, for at least 3 years before applying for the instructor's license. Is that in here somewhere that I may have missed?
Natanya?
Are you asking if this was actually on the enrollment form?
Right. It's required in enrollment agreements for the students that if they're a instructor, student, that statement has to be in the enrollment agreement.
Right. As far as I can tell, I do not recall that actually being in the enrollment agreement at this time. Is this something that we could do for future?
Well, let's kind of get through the rest of the program here and see if there's any other issues. I did not see your instructor curriculum listed anywhere. That is from the state board website. Do you have that on there?
It is not.
And the question, I think, started with, if you are planning to offer the instructor program, we don't have that information presented yet. So you would need to present it either if the board's okay for me to review or for a future date. Right now, all you applied for was the manicure program without the instructor.
Yes, that's all we basically, and we have instructors in place, and that's something we was going to do eventually. Okay. That wasn't something that we're going to start the school out with. That's probably why it's not in there.
Perfect. And that was the first question the chairman had, and you had said yes. So okay. we will not worry about that piece then. Thank you.
That takes care of a lot of that.
All right. Thank
you. This is just a question about a policy you had without getting too in depth with it. You have a policy which indicates that the student is responsible for determining any changes or additions that you might have into your catalog or your policies as time goes on. Do you have any kind of responsibility as a school to make sure that you've informed the student, or can you just go into your policies and today and change something without notifying the student that a change has been made?
No, that's something we will discuss with the students. I know as being a school owner, things change all the time, and we just want to let the student know that things are subject to change, and we'll have a discussion with you guys about it, let you guys know what changes that may come up.
I thought that was probably where you were trying to go, that you're indicating that you could make changes, but I think you put the onus on the student to always make sure that they're coming to you to say, hey, have there been any changes, rather than you saying, hey, we're making some changes. Okay, that was just something that popped out. Okay. In your catalog, I think it's on your page 18, it indicates that your program is 660 hours for the manicure program.
That's a typo, and thank you for pointing it out. Yes. It's page 18, I believe, of your documents. Mr. Charles, if you can adjust that. We've got somebody that needs to mute themselves. Hello? Thank you.
Natanya, we'll be able to do that. It's just a typo.
Roxana, what page again did you say? Page 16?
Page 18, it has the hours at 660. I think that's just a typo.
Yes.
Yes, I can fix that.
Thank you.
Right now. Yes. Thank you.
For those that are participating on Teams, someone is singing, and although that is very appreciated, but at this point it might be distracting to the meeting. If we can make sure everybody's muted. Thank you.
One other thing I guess I had a question about, Mr. Charles, was this. On your page 27, for us it's page 38, I notice you have a reference to Title IV funds and just a statement about that in there. Is this school accredited?
No, I was just preparing just in case when we get accredited. That's something we will take out. That was just a typo. I was using a preference from my other school in Bristol because it's accredited, and we have a manicuring program, so some of the stuff, we kept it on it, but it's a typo. We'll exclude it.
Okay. And I think the last thing that I had that I was a little bit concerned about, in your contingency plan, you list that your Crown Cuts school is one of the teach-out options or contingency options. Does your barber school have a cosmetology or manicurist license there to be able to do that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, it does. And also with that, you indicated that I believe your Virginia campus was also listed in there, and you realize that Virginia would have their own rules and regulations, and Tennessee may or may not be able to go along with that.
Yes, we have what we have at our school in Virginia is so close to the border that we have all our instructors have dual license where they can practice in Tennessee or Virginia.
Right, but if you had your school closed and you sent those students to the Virginia campus, Tennessee might not be able to recognize those hours potentially. There could be an issue there. I'm not saying there is, but there could be. So I'm not sure that would be a valid school to be able to list in your contingency plan since it's in another state.
Well, with us being in Virginia, I remember speaking to Roxanne West, grandfathered in, because we have students who so close and they take the test in Tennessee and Virginia.
Okay, because they're on the border there.
Yes.
Okay.
And we've just been grandfathered in, and we're not moving. So.
Okay.
I think your point was well made. If the instructors were not licensed to offer the hours the way we do, but as Mr. Charles pointed out, I think they're all duly licensed. We'd have to definitely make sure that that's the case because of the hours. Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Somewhere in here, I think it's your page 40, our 51, you have a dress code, but the dress code does not mention a uniform. So that's something for you all to look into. It is required by law that students wear a uniform. It is prescribed by the school, but you aren't really saying that there's a uniform. You're just telling them the types of clothes that they can't wear. So
Okay. And we do use uniforms, so I mean that's an easy fix for us. That's in the plans, and I see where you're coming from with that. It doesn't specify a dress code.
the other thing that I have is on the very first page. You have that there's 600 hours needed, and it's 28 hours a week and 25 weeks. That's more than 600 hours.
Well, we're giving them enough time because East Tennessee, the weather is bad, so we're just kind of giving them enough time to get the hours in, letting them know that you might, through circumstances that we can't control, sometimes your hours will go over. It might take you a little longer to get.
I think she may be concerned that since the state's requirement is 600 hours, and whenever you do that math on there, we as school owners understand, what that absentee is whenever you have a weather day. But it might appear to the student that they're being required for 28 weeks or something like that.
I think that as a student, if not that we have those great students that have perfect attendance, but if I have perfect attendance, I want to know the minimum amount of time that I'm going to spend at your school. So if you just make that the minimum amount of time, so the 600 hours.
All right. And we will fix that with my assistant today.
What else?
Natanya?
Yes.
We'll be able to fix that issue.
And what page is, with the dress code, what page again was that?
Your dress code is your page 40.
My page 40. And then as far as like the minimum amount of time, that was the first page of the enrollment form?
That was the first page of the enrollment form, and it is repeated on page 12 of your catalog.
12. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Sammy, did you have? That's a motion.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve with those changes. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we really appreciate it. We look forward
we'll be sending an inspector.
When your changes are made, if you'll please make sure in one email to send me all the updates and let me know when you're ready to be inspected. Congratulations.
Remember,
Thank you,
guys.
Roxana.
Yes.
Thank you. Really appreciate
Absolutely.
the time this morning.
So at this point, it's up to the board because they have another school in Tennessee. If the board is okay with it just being a field inspector, I think generally speaking, as long as the complaint process and the schools are in good standing, we tend to do that, but it's at your discretion.
We're fine either way.
If you can just double, I think some of our mics aren't working, so just before you speak, if you can make sure yours isn't. We know Amy's nothing there. Okay. So, yeah, You all are so good about that. So we have a motion by Amy Tanksley and a second by Judy McAllister to approve the school for the new specialty manicure school pending the changes are submitted to the office. If the board is okay just sending a field inspector, I think I'm comfortable with that for change in locations. Those schools that have already history with us, we tend to do that. And of course, if the field inspector has any concerns, then that would change the dynamic. So if that's okay, we will go with just a field inspector. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We did vote on that.
Yes, we voted on it and we congratulated them. So I think we're,
Okay. All right.
thank you. Okay, our next school application starts on page 60 on your iPads. I'll give everyone a minute to get there. This is a change in location. The Black Pearl Nail Academy LLC, and Miss Caldwell is here with us today. We're very fortunate. She is participating in person. This change of location is in the Memphis area. The application, enrollment agreement, catalog, and floor plan were all received timely. I'll let the members, thank you. You already know what to do. That is correct. That is correct. We would not need to send anyone else.
Hello. Thank you for being here today. I'm sorry, I think I missed your name.
Dariah Caldwell.
Dariah Caldwell. Thank you for being here this morning. And this is just changing location. As I reviewed your paperwork here, I had made a note about your re-enrollment contract. Where is the original enrollment agreement in your paperwork? I know these things have already been submitted, and
It should be on page 10 for you.
Okay.
Should start the original contract. So we had to change our process like most schools have, where you kind of just rolling enrollment, keep going into your enrollment if the student goes over the amount of months. But per our attorney, the school's attorney advised that we did a second contract.
Sure.
So when students month end, whatever that is, we're on an 8-month contract. So if the 8 months in and they have 200 more hours to go, they have a choice to withdraw at that moment and leave with what they have or sign a re-enrollment contract, because we were having a lot of issues with constantly letting students just keep going. So our attorney,
so that's what that additional paperwork was.
that's what the additional
Okay.
contract is. That's a great idea. It has helped a lot.
Almost like the previous school, on your page 1, page 69 for our members, you have your total possible hours listed as 640. Again, that's more.
So the reason that we do that, and you'll see right above it, it says that the maximum time allowable is the 600 scheduled hours, and above it, before that, it'll say 300 hours of theory, 300 hours of practical. We put that 8 months letting them know that the potential is 640 hours. So there's absolutely no reason why you should not finish this program in 8 months. So it's just kind of letting them know that the potential was there. So when the 8 months passes and you still don't have anything close to 600 hours, you failed. You fell short, not the school. But the 600 hours that is actually due is on there at the top of the contract.
Yeah, I see that just above. I think that might be just a little bit confusing. I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Should we change the verbiage? Because we say total possible hours, not letting them know that's the mandatory hours. The mandatory hours is written above. So should we change the verbiage?
I would be more comfortable personally, as I said before, minimum hours or what we really need the student to see. It may be possible in some scenario, some otherworldly scenario, that they might be there 640, 680, 700 hours, depending on their attendance. But where it says total possible hours of 640, I'd be more comfortable if that was 600.
Okay.
That is pretty much the only real note that I had here. Becky, Amy?
You lose a lot, you start revamping.
One of the questions that the chairman typically asks, and he didn't, so I was really
Go ahead,
surprised.
go ahead.
How far? This is a change of location, so how far are you moving?
Walking distance. We could literally walk less than 2 miles. I was waiting for it. I
When
was
he
waiting
didn't
for
say
it.
that, it just blew my mind.
I actually checked the address on Google Earth.
Yeah, it's walking distance from the original location.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve this change of location with a. Yes, ma'am.
We have a motion and a second to approve with the field inspector and the changes addressed. All in favor, say aye.
I
Motion carries. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you for joining us. Congratulations. We have a motion by Amy Tanksley made for the change with one minimal update that will be sent to me, and then a second by Ms. Monica Lemons. Board members, next on your iPads, we start on page 97. This is Aspire Academy of Aesthetics. It too is a change in location. Ms. Sherry Jordan is on the team's call to be able to answer any of your questions. The school is located in Kingsport. The application, enrollment agreement, catalog, and floor plan, as well as contingency plan, were all received timely.
And this is just a change of location.
That is correct.
All the previous contracts and everything are still on file with the school.
Yes, and any changes that the school has at the time of this application, they would need to send to me. So in the case of Ms. Caldwell, she sent her updated contracts. You got a lot of wonderful information that you saw. The same here. Anything that has been changed is before you.
Ms. Jordan, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm going to
Thank you. Good morning.
I'm going to start off with my normal question. Is this a long way to travel for the students?
No, sir. I actually just jumped over a couple of streets, just to be honest. My previous building, I really liked my school, of course, but it was experiencing some water damage. And so I just, we did a drone flyover of the building, and there was quite a few inches of water standing along the length of the building. And so anyway, I was just, it was an older building at that and had been taken care of and kept up. It took me 6 months to even get it ready.
Wow.
So I just made the decision to, it's time to start looking and relocate. And so I did.
Thank you very much. I did have a question about your programs here. Do you offer the instructor training as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Going through your documents, I did not find that statement where you are telling a potential instructor student that they must have been previously licensed for at least 3 years. That's a really, really important thing for them to have in there because it could obviously lead to issues getting licensed or their expectations.
Yeah, I was listening to you earlier on that too, and I was like looking for it as well on my enrollment contract, and I don't have that. I can include that, and reprint these enrollment contracts absolutely, and I will absolutely include that as a qualifying factor that they must be actively licensed for 3 years.
Also, and you probably can direct me to it in your paperwork, in your refund policies, I don't think I saw the requirement that the refunds must be issued within 45 days.
I know it's in my, there it is, on page 12, sir. Are you in the enrollment contract, sir?
Let me get over to that.
Okay.
You think it's on page 12 of your enrollment agreement?
Enrollment agreement, page 12, and I'm seeing it about 3/4 down to the right.
Page 111. She's got it there toward the bottom.
Ooh. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to tell you the wrong page.
No, you're fine. It was your page 12. You're 100% correct.
Okay, because I'm like, I'm not matching. Okay. No more than 45 days
I see
from
it.
the last
Thank you.
day.
I do see that. I just
Okay, is that
find it.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Phew.
The last note I had was I think I would like you to tell me a little bit about your contingency policy.
The contingency policy is if I were to, experience a possible closing, I also seeked out a cosmetology school and considered opening just aesthetics program with them. And when I did that, the school just honestly, it just wasn't large enough to hold more than one or two students.
Mm-hmm.
The clinical room she had set up was actually a break room, and it was also a thoroughfare into the dispensary and bathrooms. So I just we can consider that, or at the same time looking into another school that does offer aesthetics and direct my students and give them some direction.
So I think what I would like to see here is that you have something. I'm sorry. In fact, I'm not even able to find it here on your paperwork. Roxana, do you know what page that might be on?
Contingency. Okay.
I believe you had told me you did not change your contingency plan and therefore didn't provide it. But if the
Okay.
members want to make sure that you send it to me, I'm fine with that. But that was the last conversation I recall.
Yes.
That's actually kind of what I would think. I know you had a contingency plan before, but if you could update that and forward that to Roxana.
Yes, sir. Are you needing it in my enrollment, or because I know it's in my catalog?
If you can tell me where it is in your catalog, that might help.
Yeah. Let me get there. I'm sorry. Let me flip over there real quick.
I've got
It's
it.
on your page 31.
I said it's price.
Okay, you have exactly what we need there.
The school teach out.
There is, regardless of whether you can work something out with other schools, you have a policy here that would take care of the students, so that's fine.
Okay. So it's okay.
You're good.
What I've got. Okay. Phew. Next.
Well, it's Christmas.
Poor Miss, listen, you all, Roxana deserves so much recognition. You have no idea. I panic and I email her and call her, and she has to calm me down. Thank you, Miss Roxana.
It is my pleasure.
That is the only couple of questions I had on this one. Does anybody else have something?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to approve and send an
Yeah.
field inspector.
Okay.
We have a second, Jeff Moran. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Enjoy your move.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Jordan. We have a motion
Thank you.
by Mona Sappenfield and a second by Mr. Jeffrey Moran, and all were in favor to accept the presentation for change of location as they reviewed today. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yes.
We have another agenda item, a couple down, that's Aspire Beauty and Barber Academy. Is these linked?
Not at all. They just like the name.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did point out that could be confusing at some point, but we're okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, do I need to contact you about a field inspector?
Yes, ma'am, but just by email. And today, of course, nothing will happen. We're still in the board meeting, but when you think you'll be ready, just let me know via email, okay?
Oh, praise the Lord. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Y'all have a great day and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Okay, so that's hard to top. We will move on next.
I'm sorry, but just want to make sure I get everything right. Thank you all.
Thank you, sweetie. Next on your iPads is a new school. This is Minx and Company. This is a new specialty natural hairstyling school. Ms. Rachel Humphrey is on the call participating to answer any questions you have. This school is located in Antioch. The application, floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan were all received timely. And we start on page 152 of your iPads. Good morning, Ms. Humphrey. Thank you for joining us.
Morning.
Thank you for being here this morning. Can you tell us a little bit about your proposed school here?
Yes, so I have a hair salon. It's actually the same location. I've been open almost 5 years, and I've noticed trying to get stylists in to work in the salon, a lot of them are not licensed. I've had a lot of people come and put in applications and actually do not have a license at all. Um, so I felt like there was more of a need for a natural hair school in the area. I know there's one other one. Um, I think we may be a little different, different styles, and actually, um, I would say wanted to open a school before I wanted to open a salon. It just seemed a little harder to do. So I'm actually would hope to close the salon and turn it into a natural hair styling school. So there we are. I will say that there are parts of the handbook that include Hunt's Barber Academy. At the time, he was applying to relocate, and we were possibly going to use the same facility. However, that has changed. So I do have an updated handbook ready to submit today without his information on there. But
Ms. Humphrey, could I, this is Roxanne, if I could ask a quick question. Are you referring to resubmitting the catalog, but your enrollment agreement is okay?
yes, the
Okay.
enrollment agreement is fine. It's maybe like page 2. It may have his logo or something on there of the handbook.
Ms. Humphrey, are you intending to delete all you're intending to delete all references to the barber program, so there wouldn't be any references in your application? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned that you have a salon now, and you intend to close that salon and put your school in there. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, I've actually gotten rid of all the stylists that were working there. They've moved to another shop, and so it's just myself. And then hopefully, if this passes, then I will no longer be servicing clients there, and it would just be the school.
Where did you move your shop to, or did you just move your stylist out?
Different stylists.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
they
different salon owners
okay.
have them. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you'd be using the same space that would have previously been your salon. You're going to use that for your school, correct?
Yes, and I've already started the process of moving things around and buying new equipment. So it doesn't really look like a salon at the moment. It just has a big open floor.
Oh, it's not set up
with
yet.
these states.
Okay.
Well, it looks like the floor plan
Okay.
that I submitted.
Okay.
Yeah, that's key. If the floor plan's changing, then we have nothing to review. But if the floor plan's fine, then we're good.
Yes.
Roxanne, help me out here.
Yes.
In the apprentice programs on the Cosmo, what is the minimum number of stations that are required? I know it's different from the.
For the specialty schools, there is no
There's not.
minimum. It's just one.
That was
Yeah,
my
and
note.
this is a traditional school. Now that, of course, she can have apprentices, but she's got the floor space and the practical equipment needed to offer it in the school.
Ms. Humphrey, this is going to be an apprentice only?
No.
No, it's I wanted to offer both programs.
So you want to offer the full service in person?
Natural hairstyling.
Oh, natural hairstyles, not Cosmo.
Yes.
Okay. I noticed that in your enrollment agreement, there is no statement that says with the apprenticeships that they must be completed within 150% of their original contract hours.
Okay, I do remember reading that, but no, I didn't add that. I can add that in.
150% of that. 150.
Yes, 50%.
50%. So in that scenario, it would be half of their hours in the classroom and then the rest outside.
Okay, I'll add that in. 50%.
Correct. Correct. Accreditation's always a issue.
Okay. Hello.
She's not able, I don't think, to hear you, Amy. See if
Yeah,
that mic next to Mona works. No, I didn't. I promise.
What was your question?
Yes. The catalog.
Right. She said earlier she was going to delete any references to the barber.
Okay. So she would reset. And Ms. Humphrey, what Ms. Tanksley, and I apologize, some of our mics appear to not be working, about half of them. So what she was discussing was your catalog that you referenced, and just making sure that you would resubmit the catalog for my review with eliminating any reference to the other school that you were considering partnering with.
Yes.
Ms.
All
Humphrey,
of that will be.
There were two policy items that I did not find. One was a plan to keep your part-time and full-time files separate, and another was a backup method for logging any student hours. Some folks do it on paper, some people do it on a spreadsheet, some people have electronic measures for that. I believe that I saw that you had some method for that, but do you have a backup, and what would that be?
Yeah, so we have a login. I have a program that they will log in on the iPad, and then there will be a sign-in sheet. And I believe, I thought I put that in here. Let me see if I can find it. Would I need a third?
No, you just need the two. You need your method and then a backup, just in case the worst happens.
Okay. Let me see. Are you in the enrollment agreement or the handbook?
Whichever one, wherever you think you have
Whichever
it.
one,
Yeah, we'll find it.
It would be okay there if you can tell me anything that's in there.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. It's on page 7 of the handbook.
Page 175 of our iPad, tracking attendance.
Maybe that's not thorough enough.
I do see that you have it in here, the computerized clock system, but you do issue a monthly report card or something that's going to have an update for all the students' hours, correct?
Okay.
Your computer went down. Do you have a backup to your computer? If you lost those computerized files, is it saved on a hard drive somewhere?
Yes. We'll have a backup method of saving all of their attendance records.
And the last thing I had for you was your contingency plan. Can you tell me where that is?
I did submit a contingency plan. However, I'm looking through the final application that Roxana sent me in the last email, and I don't see it in here, what she sent back. But I have a contingency plan, and I believe I sent it. I resubmitted some paperwork a few times, but the contingency plan was sent with the original application.
If the members are okay, yeah, with it being resent to me, I'm fine reviewing it for the teach out plan, and it can be brief. Sometimes the contingency plans are so long it's nothing but confusing.
Contingencies can be as simple as, I'm going to either give you your money back or something like that. It's up to the school.
There's actually another natural hairstyling school about 10 minutes away, and she accepts transfer hours. And so if if it was interrupted longer than 10 business days, then the students would be referred to her school. It's Sweeting's Natural Braiding Institute.
Right. Just as long as you have an agreement with them or something, we can't just say, I think I'm going to call somebody. We need to have a plan for that. So that was the only other concern I had.
Do you have relationships developed for those apprenticeship students? So a place to send them for their 150 hours?
Yes, I've been in contact with 5 salon owners. They have all been licensed longer than 10 years. And then I wasn't sure, but there were a couple of people that were in large salon suites that had been licensed for over 10 years that were pretty excited about the idea of accepting apprentice. I don't have anything in writing as of yet, but I have started trying to open up those relationships with other stylists and salon owners.
Just one last thing to be clear, that if this is approved, that you won't be opening a school in an active salon. Your salon will be closed, or that would not have.
Yes, sir. It will be closed.
Anybody else have questions?
I'd like to make
Ms. Tanksley's making a motion.
to approve this with the updated changes, and
Tanksley made a motion to approve with an inspector and a board member. Whenever she's ready for that, to contact Roxana with the changes and corrections to her documents.
I second that. Oh,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is that clear as mud?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other discussion? Roxana, would you read that back?
Thank you. Yes, we have a motion made by Ms. Amy Tanksley to approve this school for inspection by a field inspector and board member pending the catalog be completely updated and sent to my office for review, and then the contingency plan, which might have been sent, but I do not have on the final presentation. So pending those two items, I believe that we're in agreement, and the motion was seconded by Ms. Judy McAllister. Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you. Ms. Humphrey, when you...
We still need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're ready.
If you'll send
Thank
me both of
you.
those when they're updated on one email, and then we'll connect when you're ready to be inspected. Thank you and congratulations.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thanks.
You. Board members, next we have, this is a new barber school. It is Aspire Barber and Beauty Academy, and they start on page 187 of your iPads. Mike and Tracy Franklin are on the call participating to answer your questions. This school is located in Cookeville. It is over 5,000 square feet. The application, floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan were all submitted timely. I will turn it over to you, Chairman Gillihan.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, folks, for joining us on our call.
Thank you for having us.
Can you tell us just a little bit about your school?
Yes. Well, we've owned a salon. We've owned Locke Salon for about 10 years now. And this past year, we created the state's first apprenticeship program recognized through the Tennessee Labor and Workforce Development Center. And we just feel like there is a need for additional opportunities for aspiring barbers in our area. There's many of the schools have waiting lists, and we want to just be able to come in and provide them an upscale opportunity to go into this industry, this great industry.
Good. As I went through your documents, it was a pretty clean application as far as I can tell. I did, however, have a question about your 45 days on the refund clause. I may have overlooked it. Could you tell me where to find that?
Let's see here.
Any refunds to students have to be made within 45 days, and I may have just found it. That's exactly what I just noticed.
You found it?
You've got it? I found it? It's all good there?
All right. You got it quicker than I did.
I don't know how I overlooked it. You also mentioned that you're going to be doing, in your documents, some Zoom classes. Can you tell me about that?
Well, not necessarily. Not unless there were some kind of pandemic, like we've had in the past. That would be the only way that we would do any online.
But that would be part of an emergency plan.
That is part of the emergency plan, absolutely.
Okay. Within, if you ever were to be in that scenario, you're aware that it would probably need to be symmetrical, where you have your staff online with the students while the class is underway.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I don't understand how this happened, but that's the only notes that I had on your file. I believe you've submitted a good application as far as I'm concerned. Does anybody else see something I've missed?
And that is a compliment. So, Mr. and Ms. Franklin, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Questions? Do we have a motion? This would require a board member.
Make the motion.
I'm sorry. I do have one statement to make, if I may, and a question. We've had just a slight change in the floor plan in that our color bar and manicure stations will be in a different place. Do I need to resubmit that?
Yes, you will. I don't, if the board members are okay with that switch in layout, I think that's fine. Our bigger concern is when the field inspector goes, they need that, and the board member will have your updated floor plan as well. So if you can make that change and send me a final one, I think we're okay with that. You agree?
Perfect.
Okay.
Make the motion to approve with the field inspector and a board member for the inspection.
Moran, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations and good luck with your endeavor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just on the record, we have a motion by Judy McAllister and a second by Mr. Jeffrey Moran to go ahead and send a board member and field inspector when you are ready to be inspected. The only update that they've requested is the change you're making to your floor plan, and congratulations.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Board members, next on our school applications, we are looking at a new cosmetology school. This is Confidence College of Cosmetology, and it starts on page 225 of your iPads. Ms. Courtney Bennett is here in person to answer your questions. This school is in Piney Flats. The application, floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan were all received timely. If you give me a minute, let me welcome Ms. Bennett.
So we're discussing up here, where is Piney Flats?
It is right outside of, well, it's between Johnson City and Bristol. So it's a good central area to like Bristol, Tennessee, because there's no longer a school there, Elizabethton, the north side of Johnson City. So it kind of pulls, it's a central location to a good area. Minutes.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Bennett. Welcome, and please tell us a little bit about your school.
Yeah, so I seen an opportunity because there's not anything in that area, and the closest schools to me, they all have waiting lists or they are accredited, so a lot of people can't afford them and don't meet the requirements for that eligibility. I've definitely seen them. I've been in this 17 years, so I.
Can you step a little closer?
Yes, sir. And so I seen a need for it and enjoy mentoring and teaching. So here I am.
Bennett, I apologize. What is the total square footage?
3,000 square feet.
Thank
total.
you.
Okay, I'm just kind of getting my notes up here. Bennett, in your documents, as I'm going through this, I had a little bit of difficulty going through your file. I didn't see a clear identification of where your enrollment agreement began, as it kind of runs together with all the other documents. You may have some applications in here, you may have catalog in here and other policies, but strictly just from the point of view of that student enrolling, I couldn't really identify exactly where your enrollment agreement was.
Right. Okay.
I saw the information, but.
Yes, sir. So I actually, instead of doing a full catalog and a full enrollment agreement, to me that overwhelms me. So I just took kind of everything and put it into one catalog. So I do have a statement or a clause in there that kind of says the enrollment agreement is to, by initialing each page, that you agree to all of these policies. And then I included the enrollment agreement application to where there's information on that. So I guess the entire packet would be my kind of enrollment agreement by them initialing each page. So I kind of combine the two, if that makes sense and is appropriate. Yes, ma'am. There's actually a separate page at the end of the entire packet that says I have received a true and exact copy, and then we both sign.
And Ron, the only thing to add on page 242 would be her one-page brochure, if you will.
Right.
Catalog. Right. So that might meet that requirement, but in essence, that would be her marketing material, if you will.
I'm just going to kind of go down my list a little bit, and maybe you can tell me where to find some things and help me. Okay. Do you have your package with you? Or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Talk about that. Can you tell me in your package exactly where I can find your daily and weekly hours listed?
That would probably be under the program schedule on page 7.
7 of your documents, okay.
235 of hours, Ron.
Yep.
Under program schedule.
So can you tell me, with that, can you tell me exactly where you're listing? I'm enrolling in your school, and I want to be a full-time student. I'm going to start on January the 1st. I'm going to end on December 31st. Can you tell me where to find that?
That may be in the, well, under the program schedule, there are start dates. I don't exactly have end dates, but under admission requirements on the next page, on page 8, it does have, 11 to 14 months, ideally, depending on their hours. Part-time, I have the evening hours listed for my part-time people, and then I do have a clause in there that they would have to, maintain a minimum hours.
So if I'm an inspector and I walk in and I want to say Miss Roxana is not in attendance, but she's on your records, where can I see something that says she's supposed to be here from, her specifically is going to be here from 8 to 3, because you may have other students that are part-times or different schedules. Where can I find that?
That's a very...
On your program schedule?
Yes, ma'am.
You have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 until 3, and Saturdays 9 until 5.
Yes, ma'am. And then Wednesday and Friday evenings. I'm trying to cater to the working class because I had to work and put myself through school, and I had children while going to school. So I'm trying to cater to those adults going back to still give them time to work.
Okay, for your part-time students, what are their hours?
Their hours would be the evening schedule, and then Saturdays, and then the clause of meeting the 24-hour minimum. They could choose what other day that they needed to make up those hours, and that would be included in their enrollment agreement that we both sign and file in their file.
Okay, thank you.
Are you intending to do the instructor program?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell me where your instructor requirements are?
Starts on page 234, I think, Ron, which is her page 6. Does that sound right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So I don't see any information that required statement that in order to enroll as an instructor trainee, you have to have been licensed for 3 years.
Yes, sir. That's on page number 4 under admission requirements. at the bottom of the admission requirements, it says instructor students must submit a current copy of their Tennessee license and must have maintained an active license for at least 3 years.
Takes care of it. There are a couple of things. I just have a few highlighted here, maybe, and again, this is to help me in case I miss some of these grounds for termination. I see it on page 238, I believe. So there's. Can you tell me where your apprentice curriculum is located? It's okay. We'll take your time.
Under the curriculum on my page 5, I have kind of a paragraph of information before I have the actual curriculum breakdown by law. In that paragraph, it states curriculum will prepare students for the licensing exam. Confidence College Cosmetology offers the apprenticeship program where students may choose to attain half of the required hours in a salon setting under a licensed cosmetologist. Cosmetologists must be licensed a minimum of 10 years and pre-approved by owner. Student must pass theory portion of their exam before apprenticeship may begin.
There's no statement or information in here for the student to indicate to them that they are doing 50% of the program in-house, 50% with a educator in the shops.
I can put that in application back of the packet. I have broken down where they sign, cosmetology or apprentice, because I'll obviously need to keep all of that separate. But I can add that clause in there.
It also has to have the information about maximum time frame.
Yes. And generally speaking, most schools have it as a separate contract because it requires additional time and all those clauses in there. I don't believe you've submitted a separate agreement for your apprenticeship. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you want her to redo just a separate agreement for the apprenticeship? So this is a traditional school. It is not apprenticeship only. But obviously she'd be able to offer it as long as she's ready and has that the ability to get those students on track for 50% of just theory.
I'm not so concerned about, formatting so long as it's easily identifiable that this is what I'm agreeing to. And certainly if you want to put all your policies into that, that's wonderful. It's fine. It may be a little confusing to the student, but some things like another note I had here was you have the start date. I'm going to start on January 1st. But you don't have an end date for the contract, which is extremely important for the student to identify that, yes, I'm going to be here from 8 to 3, Tuesday through Friday, and these are the number of weeks and hours that I should expect to be.
I do have 17 that they can our additional tuition expense I do have that in there that allots them that much time, but I can put a specific legality or clause in there if I never need to. That's an easy fix.
And that exact requirement is actually a requirement. You must have the end date so that when the student signs, and your page 12, which is our 240, has the start date. So I think if the board, again, we've got several things missing, agrees, that end date would have to be there. That gives the student that expectation of when they need to finish.
Amy, to your statement, yeah, everybody submits lots of different formats and things, and that's great. That's okay. It's just if it's so confusing that a student wouldn't really be able to point to it and say, "Yeah, I know this is exactly what I'm getting. This is what I'm supposed to be required to do." Then that's something. Well, if it's okay, let's see if anybody else has some other questions and maybe add to this, and I'll come back to that.
And it's not really a number. It's up to your
Yeah, it's not a number,
discretion. If
yeah,
you're comfortable with the changes, to give to me, and then we'll talk about it if I'm comfortable. But if you're not and need it represented, it would totally be your decision.
No, it's very difficult to not approve some things, and my opinion on this one is very simply that I think this has a lot of elements that are either unclear or very difficult for the student. They're the consumer, and they need to be able to. I think one of the things here is that your policies are. Let me see if I can. Every enrollment of a student in a school shall be evidenced by a written enrollment agreement which clearly defines the rights and obligations of both parties. That's a requirement. I think this, for me, it probably is a little bit too unclear to satisfy that for me. So, again, anybody else has any comments, pros and cons, please?
I would love a chance, Roxana, to. I said I would love a chance to get this to Roxana today. I have transfer students waiting on me, and I really need this. Yes, ma'am. I understand completely, and I'm happy to, as soon as I walk out of this room, fix those changes.
So we have a motion by Mona to approve with corrections as we've outlined here and clarifications to send an inspector and a board member. Do we have a second?
So if the board gives me the approval, and you can give me the approval, and I can review it even with you if you prefer, then that's where it would stay. You cannot, without being transparent and in front of the public, decide otherwise. So that wouldn't work. So it's one of those two. Since we're struggling for a second, let me recap the things that I think I'm noting. And Ron or Becky, please let me know if we have more. There needs to be a clear separation between the part-time and the full-time students so that when a student signs in, they clearly mark which path they're taking, and they must have a start and end date. That end date isn't clear anywhere. Based on that start and end date, the number of weeks that each one would need to complete needs to be noted. I think that's one piece.
It's weeks and hours for the individual.
Weeks and hours for the individual. So if you're part-time or Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 9 to 5, that needs to be there. How many weeks that takes, part-time or Saturday evenings and evenings, that needs to be clearly noted. I also pick up, and I 100% hear what the chairman is saying, so I want to make sure that if we also have that. The layout is is clean, so I do get that. But I think, Ron, to your point was that it's not clear for the student what they're signing on. You know, it's kind of written in a paragraph format and maybe not clear enough. I don't know if she'll have a chance to redo it, and I don't know, Chairman Gillihan, what you want me to look at if she does restructure how this looks. And then the catalog, the rules do state that a person must have a catalog or brochure, and it's intended so that whatever marketing is sent, I say that because it's in our rules more so than the law, that the marketing material is very clear to the applicant. Right now, what she has is on your page 242. Is that enough? Does she really need to reinstate it? And I don't know the answer to that. Would that be sufficient, or do you want a separate catalog? And then we didn't talk about the contingency plan, but I don't know that the contingency plan has the exact teach out, and that is specific in the rules. So those are my notes.
The instructor curriculum, the instructor.
Are you planning on offering instructor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that would have to be done.
Instructor curriculum, the instructor information in their enrollment agreement. Now, I'm sorry, you did point out where you do have this statement. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So that's in there. For the record, Ms. Tankley has indicated that she believes that the format has many of the elements, but the format needs some work. I'm paraphrasing. It be corrected, or must it need to be represented? Yeah, is that fair to say?
I think we have concerns about the format, but that's not
right. It's not the format. It's the
was responsible for the content.
Exactly.
So Roxanna.
Exactly. Format's not.
And the instructor piece on page 12 of hers, 240 for you, it does have where you would circle if you're doing the instructor, and the curriculum for the instructor from our rules is listed. I saw it a minute ago. So it is on there. What is not clear again are the end and start dates and the time and the number of weeks.
So we have a motion and a second to approve with the changes as discussed to send an inspector and a board member. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I will vote no.
Is there a need for me to do roll call vote, or are we very clear there's only one no?
We don't have
as well.
Who knows?
And abstain.
Okay. I'm going to need to do a roll call vote. I think we do have 9 members here, but between a no or an abstain, we still need a majority vote in order to proceed. I think I have clear guidance on what is expected for us to do before a board member inspector can go. And thank you, Ms. Tanksley, for pointing out. So today's kind of a loss as far as me getting anything. But by the time I review it and consider it final, we have 10 business days to be able to go. So just to kind of make sure that we're clear. Okay, by roll call vote, we have a motion made by Mona Sappenfield and a second by Amy Tanksley, and it would be to approve this brand new cosmetology school pending 2 inspections, as long as we review in the office the documents that are included. So I will start with Anita Charlton. It would be a yes or no. Yes, thank you. Frank Ambusa.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Von Gillihan.
Regretfully, no.
Okay. Monica Lemons. Judy McAllister.
Yes.
Jeffrey Moran. Lane Petty. Becky Russell.
No.
Mona Sappenfield. And Amy Tanksley. Okay. We have a total of 4 noes and 2 abstains, so unfortunately the motion fails. I take it that the board would like her to represent in February? Okay. And
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
connect with you. Okay, members, thank you. We will proceed on your iPads on page 244. This is a, give me a minute, thrown off here. Okay. This is a new cosmetology apprenticeship school, Thrive Beauty Institute. Mr. Gary Pearson is on the call, participating to answer any calls you have. This school is located in Jackson. It is 200 square feet. The application, floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan were all received timely. I will turn it over to you, Chairman Gillihan, for any questions. Thank you for being on the call and waiting patiently.
Hello.
Hello?
There.
Yes.
Great. Thank you for attending our meeting, and if you could tell us just a bit about your school.
Yes, thank you for having me. So the school is Thrive Beauty Institute. It is a cosmetology apprenticeship program. We'll be done hybrid online here in Jackson, Tennessee. And yeah, I'm excited about it to create something like this in our area here in Jackson to just start a great flourishing career for different generations here.
Great. I have reviewed your application myself. This is a full cosmetology school?
Apprenticeship only.
No, sir.
Okay,
it's apprenticeship only.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Roxana, on the application, on the board's information, if I'm looking correctly, it's our page 245. Does the full cosmetology on there, should that be listed as a apprentice instead?
There is no such thing as just apprentice. So full cosmetology would mean as an apprentice, right? They'd be able. It's still full cosmetology.
Gotcha.
That's a great question.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you tell me, Mr. Pearson, where your transfer student policies are, accepting hours from other schools or so forth, or accepting transfers?
Yes. Hold on. Give me a minute. I have my papers here. It should be. I definitely have it. I don't accept.
You tell me where
No,
that
I
is.
don't have that.
And the only
Yes,
thing,
sir. I won't. I don't have that. I won't be accepting that for this program.
and for apprenticeship, most schools actually don't because it's very difficult. They would have to be in agreement to accept the theory and the level that they're at. So it's not to say that they can't, but they don't envision that because you're doing 100% of the theory in the school, which could vary from another school's perspective, but they could. And then obviously then the practical hours would be under a supervising professional, so they could, but the vast majority, once you sign that enrollment agreement for an apprenticeship only, it's a little bit limiting. Does that help?
Oh, perfect, perfect. Can you help me find where your apprenticeship program must be completed within 150% of the time allowed?
Yes, sir. Give me a minute.
Sure.
Yes, 25 months and 22 and a half months. That is listed because I have it written down. I'm trying to find on my papers because I have it all mixed up. So no, it's 15 months. So they finished the program in 15 months, but it is written down on this paper somewhere. Oh my goodness! It's going to take them 15 months.
What page is that on, sir? Two.
The front enrollment agreement. It's in the box. The front roll agreement in the box. I found it.
I see it right there. Thank you so much. And your school's not going to be doing any kind of distance education, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Are these going to be in-person classes?
We will be virtual and hybrid approach, but yes.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your hybrid operation plan?
Yes, we have a program that we will actually be using as well, Milady Mind Tap.
Sure. Okay, is this a symmetrical or an asymmetrical program? Symmetrical program is when the student is required to be online while you have an instructor directing the class, viewing those students that they're being supervised. It's an asymmetrical program.
Yes.
Where the student can go online anytime, day or night, and just direct themselves and call you for.
No, sir. No, sir. This will be definitely symmetrical, and there will definitely be an instructor, even as myself and an assistant online as well. Instructor led. It will be instructor led.
Believe it or not, those are the only notes that I had made. Does anyone else have a question?
Mr. Pearson, I'd like for you to go on page 12 to your uniform policy and add a ID badge of some sort that's going to be required when they go into the salon.
Okay, awesome. Do I need to send that information with that?
It'll be a minor.
And send that or no?
It'll be a minor change that needs to be added to your uniform policy.
Okay. Okay. I would definitely make sure that's taken care of.
It's going to be for the salon side, so when they're in the salon, they need to be clearly identified. So we just like that to be added to your uniform policy.
Okay. Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll second that.
With an inspector and
This is apprenticeship only, so for apprenticeship, because there's no floor space, no equipment, we've generally just done field inspector only, if the board is okay with that.
Ms. Tanksley's motion was to approve with just the field inspector and the minor change to the identification policy. And we have a second, Ms. McAllister. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Pearson. Good luck with your school. Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much. Oh, to God be the glory. Thank you all so much. I'm so excited. I think I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming.
Congratulations, Mr. Pearson. If you will make that minor adjustment and send it to me, today's not a rush because I won't be updating emails. And then we will send a field inspector when you are ready. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, members. Okay, let me know if anyone needs a break. We are proceeding otherwise. The last school for your review is on page 280. This is Skin and Brow Room, change in location. Ms. Jessica West is here with us to answer any questions you have. The application for this school that is located in Hickson was received along with the enrollment agreement and floor plan. I will let Ms. West answer any questions you have.
Good morning, and thank you for coming down here.
Glad to be here.
All right. Can you tell us about your school?
Oh, okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I had a salon space that I had intended to create more of a lash salon, and that was the November before COVID hit. And so I had previously done the instructor training, and just thinking into the future, I would use it at some point in time. And so when COVID happened, I had committed to a 3-year lease at that space, and so I needed to be creative to hold up my end of that lease, and so I created the Skin and Brow Specialty Aesthetic School and utilized that space. So my lease has now been completed. I ran over 2 months of that lease, which the owner, if you don't re-sign a lease, they make you pay rent in a half, which is a lot, or want you to commit to a 3 to 5 year lease. And so that being the situation in our school was only running out of that space 3 days, maybe 4 days a week. And so in the meantime, I have a couple locations for the Skin and Brow Room itself. And so I purchased a building, and I found out through Roxanna that I could utilize that space the days it was not open to run this specialty aesthetic school out of. So I've done some improvements on that space to accommodate the school, and would be using the main floor space area as when it's not open, the shop is not open, as our clinic days for the public. We had a very active clinic at our previous location, a lot of hands-on. And then I've created a space that's separate where we can have classroom days, even if the shop is running, where none of the students would be doing services, or even in that same space. Really with doing more book work and lecture and stuff like that. So the school is about 9 miles away. This is my 5th group, is just now wrapping up. And so depending on how today goes, I haven't really promoted students to sign enrollment contracts, and I've kind of put those off who have reached out to me because I'm not sure of the date that I would be able to start at this new location. So even though it is about 10 miles away, it shouldn't really affect anybody who enrolls, in this new next like sixth group of students. And then also, so in addition, I do offer the instructor program, which is in there in a separate contract. But I have two ladies who have been in the industry for 20 plus years that help me on clinic days that are more cosmetology. And so that they will, allow me a break from being there on those clinic days. And so in talking to them, we've kind of thought that there's a need for something where we could do more of just a specialty apprentice cosmetology program where we facilitate that through SEMA and through Milady Mind Tap, the more theory portion, and then just them having been in the industry and myself having been in the industry for about 15 years, it would be a case-by-case scenario where we would preemptively kind of match them up, or they may have somebody that they know where once they complete the theory, then they would be able to do more of that apprentice in the salon for cosmetology. But my long-term goal is to have a brick and mortar full cosmetology program behind the shop that I have, down the road, but that's, down the road. So anyway.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds exciting. It sounds very exciting. While you were speaking, it appears that we had all the students in Tennessee drop in while we're here. Thank you guys for coming. Just make yourselves comfortable, and thank you for being here. We will get to you guys shortly. Okay.
This is a skincare specialty aesthetic school only, and it is a change of location for that school license. That's all. So you got to hear the full vision, which is wonderful. But that's what you're focusing on today.
Yeah, well, it was what Roxanne had sent me back included that cosmetology enrollment agreement, and so since that was in there, I wanted to touch on that. That's not a time sensitive thing for me. I do have
it's not on their form. That's not the application you did.
Okay, that's where I was confused. Okay, it was on one that I had.
That is all correct. Yes, that school. Yes, you'd have to make sure that what you have is listed here. I have several things that I still show pending, but I'll leave it up to the board members to review and see what you think is missing. Mm-hmm.
How far are you moving?
9.2 miles.
Okay. So you're down in Hickson. We have a former board member, Miss Coppinger, that's down there.
What's her name? I'm sorry.
Nina Coppinger.
Oh, Nina. Okay, yes.
Okay. Well, Mona, skincare generally comes to you a little bit. Is there anything that you've noticed or seen in this? Okay. Becky? I had a question about your helpers. You indicated you got some folks that are helping you, and that hopefully that it's going to give you some free time to kind of redirect yourself. Are those folks that are helping you, are they licensed instructors, or are you saying they are practitioners working in the salon that would be the supervising?
Oh, no, sir. They're licensed instructors. I am very aware that that is a requirement.
The school portion of this versus your business, your practice, you're sharing space. Did I catch that right?
So yes, sir. So my understanding is that I would be allowed to run a clinic day where the students have, the public come in, understanding that there are students that are working on them, just like I did in the prior space, but that would be on, say, Monday and Tuesday when the salon is not open. So we would basically, the required sign that all services are provided by students, we would post that sign, and, it would be very made clear both on our website and to anyone coming that we have our clinic days on these days, but that we would use the classroom space as needed on other days, but we would just be doing theory relative instruction.
Is that what you're currently doing?
No, the current space I just transitioned from like a lash salon or a skincare shop, and changed the license to just a school, a specialty aesthetic school. So and that was the reason, was we were only there 3 days doing the school program, and so that overhead as a business decision was just very costly. So I've to be able to move forward economically, did not renew that lease.
I think what I'm trying to envision here, and please correct me if I'm misunderstanding. You've got your space, and you have your practice, and you're really wanting to share school space with your practice on days when they're not conflicting with each other.
Correct. There will not be, normal shop clients coming in on the days that we have our student clinics. So that will be set days. Monday and Tuesday would be clinic days. On, say, like a Wednesday, we would be maybe in the classroom, but it would just be theory. It wouldn't be, intermingling.
I believe we may have an issue with having two different types of license at the same location. Am I wrong, Roxana?
One item that I want, where on your documents is that specified, the days of the week that the school is functioning?
It is, let's see, let me pull up the thing that you, it's on there. So it says like Monday and Tuesday, it's
What
like
page
9
number?
to 5. Hold on one second. I'm having trouble with the internet pulling it up.
On page 286, Roxana, of our documents, it says in-person lectures and student clinic days. There is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday hours listed.
Right. So, the Monday and Tuesday, I can specify those would be more clinic days. But that third day would just be a classroom day where there wouldn't be any services. Or it wouldn't, the student clinic would not be open to the public. Yeah, and I mean, it would be posted. Like we would change, I would put the sign up for the school days that says all services provided by students, on those student clinic days. And then with also the way our booking system works as well, it would be very specific to that. It would be whatever service they signed up for would be with a student too. So, because we do a lot of online booking.
Roxana, was I correct about being able to have the two different licenses together?
So I think as long as, I don't think there's any statute that envisions it not being allowed versus it being allowed. We've not done it. I know that Amy brought it up with lease agreements and what costs are to rent space, some flexibility with the location. It would have to be very clear in the enrollment agreement and in the catalog how the school is functioning. In other words, if the board approved it and this was clear that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, it is a school, then that is the only license that's up and that is how it functions on those days. Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. It is a shop. It would have to be very clear that the classrooms are not open and that it's open to the public on those days. And I think it would be an advertising and public awareness in the front of the shop even. This is the day at the school. That have like the back of an area that's completely separated, that kind of thing. It's not the whole thing. Yeah. Yes. Mike isn't picking.
Oh, sorry. We do have two separate entrances. I would like very bold lines drawn. I don't want there to be any issues, with that. And I have multiple locations, so it's not that I can't accommodate clients at another location, to maintain the integrity of the school program or the clinic program.
What I can envision, and this is a little aside from yours, what I can envision is barbershop owners wanting to institute an apprentice program for the purpose of staffing their own barbershops, and then ultimately not having enough credentialed supervising professionals potentially to manage.
Handle the one-on-one.
And then again, schools have to be clearly identified, and you did mention your signs, but I can see a tremendous opportunity for errors there. Mm-hmm.
So our district plan, and I have not actually confirmed this with my district yet, because
hello.
Directly
if you are participating on the Teams call, could you please mute yourselves? Stephanie, Miss Brown, thank you. All right, I apologize.
Okay, Ms. West, I'm just moving on along here. In your documentation, we talked earlier several times about having a start date and a completion date or an end date on the student contract. Can you help me locate where that would be?
Okay, so in the choices, it gives the month. So since it's an ongoing enrollment, that would be something where it would be dated, and then that finish date would be dependent on the enrollment date. Right. So 6, depending on part-time versus full-time. So that would, we would do that for an individual enrollment by enrollment package.
I understand that you're projecting out when they're going to graduate. That's a common practice, but in the contract itself, I think it would need to be identified that your period of enrollment starts on January 1st and ends on July 1st or whatever.
Which is typical, yes, but we do have people who join. Yes, so we do. That is really typically what we do. But I don't want to deter somebody who could, start.
That's a requirement for the documentation.
Right.
It's actually required.
Right. So we would write that in. Okay. Like when they enrolled, we would fill in that date. Like each enrollment contract would be dated, and then those months for part-time, 9 months or less, or 6 months or less, would be allotted for with
on page 8. I'm sorry to interrupt. Agreement. On page 8 of your documents, I can see where you have option 1 and 2, and that's this is for the instructor. It's irrelevant. And it identifies the hours of the week and then the months. Certainly, the day the contract is signed might be the beginning date, but I don't really see any area in here where that is identified.
It says
that I start on this date and I'm going to complete on that date.
On page 7, so it says completed in 6 months or less, and then I could put start date blank
That's what I'm saying. I think
yes,
you need to
yes,
have
absolutely.
a blank that student
I understand.
can initial and acknowledge that they know this is
Right.
these are the endpoints.
These are exact dates. Okay, I do. Yes, I understand.
If they extend beyond that, obviously
Right,
that's a business thing between you guys. But
right, correct.
okay. Under the specialty schools, Roxana, would that permit the instructor program?
It would have to be instructors for aesthetics only.
Right.
Yes.
And are you planning on doing the instructor training?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me where your statement is that it identifies the instructor trainee needs to have 3 years of licensure prior to enrollment?
It's a separate contract. I have a completely separate contract for the instructor. In the CC that I got from Roxanne, that was included. I can pull that up really quick and tell you the page for it.
I think it starts on page 300. It is her, well, it doesn't have a page, but it's the instructor enrollment process. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I may be on the wrong one. I had some issues with the PDF thing. Like I had to do some edits, but I had already transferred them to PDFs. So I may be on a different one, but I believe it is just copied and the requirements are copied and pasted from the board's website as far as that goes. So I was under the understanding, I guess, that they could not become licensed until 3 years, but they could actually do the training prior to that as long as they, by the time that they applied for licensure, they could have even have tested. And so I guess I could be more specific with that provision.
But what it actually says is that they have to be licensed for 3 continuous years prior to applying for an instructor's license. But that statement needs to be in there so that somebody doesn't go through your program and 6 months later they're ready to apply and now they suddenly realize, oh, I'm not eligible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to kind of go down a quick list here, and I know you'll be able to easily point these out to me. Your grounds for termination.
The grounds for termination. Let me go back to the out of the. Grounds for termination. So the grounds for termination are near the harassment. Like the students are not allowed. So it's all of the things that they initial, and I believe it is. Just the student agreeing to where after it states what the school agrees to, will follow.
Just give me a page.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thanks.
305. I'm sorry, Monica, I couldn't hear you.
It says page 10 of 17 on 292.
That's good. I found it. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And just a couple more of these. It won't take very long. The schools discrimination and anti-harassment policy. I know you just mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean they're back to back. Those two things are back to back on there. That it's like a zero tolerance for. Here we go.
I did not. I was not able to locate where your sanitation policy is as well.
It's in there too. It's
You've got a great presentation. It's I just couldn't find it.
oh, okay. It's just I don't know what page you guys are on.
At that last document I sent you.
I can't get it to your because I can't get on the internet and it won't pull up on my phone as a PDF. So let me see. I can try to pull it up again, but it's just giving me an error message because I don't have access to the internet. So
I see the discrimination policy here.
Okay, so in the curriculum, the sterilization sanitization is the first thing under the curriculum, and then if you go on to
What is your page number?
That is page 3.
Thanks.
That's the curriculum. That's page 3 of the enrollment contract, and then a 6 course outline for curriculum.
Did you see the sanitation policy, Mr. Gillian?
I have not yet.
At the bottom of page.
It's 302 of ours.
285 is the bottom for page 3 out of 17, and it says sanitation and sterilization, but I don't see the policy.
Okay, hang on one second. So, and let's back up just a second. Page at the top of page 10, it says the Skinner Brow School of Aesthetics and Admission does not allow to tolerate discrimination, bullying, harassment of any sort. So that's the discrimination policy. Sure. It continues on with that, and then the general terms. In the middle, towards the bottom, it says school will assist graduates in finding suitable employment. Readiness, but proper conduct, standards of conduct, general policies in school. So that's one of the termination would be destruction of school property and theft. To go back a little bit on that one, and then
I do find your termination in here.
Okay, and then requires the clients.
We're going to let you keep looking for that sanitation policy.
There's just two with the separate general terms of school official. So it says in compliance with
page number.
Yes. Hold on, I'm just.
Oh, she's looking for that.
Sorry, I added it at the end. So the end, it says the contingency plan. Wait, I'm sorry. Blah, blah, blah.
While she's doing that, I'll ask the members. Some of you may have seen this where I have not. I'm looking for the acknowledgement at the end of an enrollment agreement that the student has received a copy. I know they sign several places in here, but there's no statement that says, hey, I've actually received a copy of this.
Page 295 of ours, 13 of her 17, kind of has the statement at the top. I've read the entirety of this.
Okay, received it right there. That's what I was looking for.
Thank you.
For your benefit, Ms. West, on the sanitation policy, perhaps that's something that can be easily updated with Roxana.
Yes,
but
I'm sorry. That was something that I tagged on because she had sent me a list of things and I tagged those on. But I think in our back and forth, when I changed it to a PDF, when I sent the one that I hadn't added those things onto. So I apologize for that.
This is generally how sanitation will be treated regarding students. What are they going to be required to do? Are they participating in that? Or are you paying somebody to do that? Things like that. It's just a statement that shows
that the cleaning, the laundry, the things like that is what being very specific with that. Not just that we would be going over sanitation for
correct. It's not the curriculum. This is how you're going to handle it.
I understand for the actual facility.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Schools,
I did not include that. So I guess now I understand what you mean. So
some schools require students to participate in the daily cleaning of their work areas.
Yes.
The student needs to know.
Yes, you're right. That is not in there, and I do know what you mean as far as that, in contrast to just being sanitary in between clients.
Okay, I'm going to backpedal. I've been working diligently trying to figure out in the law or the rules if these two can actually reside in the same space. And we may need legal's help for this. I did not think that it was the intention of the law to have both in the same location. But so I was looking to figure out, is this going to push us one way or the other? So it's under law 62-4-125, where a school and shop are operated in the same building. There shall be a separate entrance and exit and separate restroom facilities for each business. And with it saying for each business, it would push me to think that these are two separate businesses. Now, where we're at with legal with that, I don't know.
Which could be separate business license and separate shop and school licenses, not necessarily.
But we would be stuck on the separate restroom facilities. And
I do have, just to catch you up on that, when I submitted this, like I said, I've been working on updating the space to accommodate the school. And so the lower floor has it has a classroom space that is separate and a restroom. There's also two entrances and exits, one at the back of the building and one at the front. Those can be labeled appropriately as needed, as well as the business license thing is not an issue. Down the road for me, I've been to the ACCSC conference where they kind of go over all of those things. So keeping that in mind down the road, those would be completely separate businesses in every way. So,
Roxana, is this considered a specialty school?
It is right now. Yes, that's all we're talking about.
So with the specialty schools, do you not have the authority to waive some of those restroom requirements if that were an issue, or is that just on the mobile barber?
It's just on the mobile that on the rules to the shop equipment, we added that flexibility. However, it just, on the schools, they need access to a restroom. And so the law, though, that Becky just read is very specific to the address. But
And
if she's
this
got
one being
separate,
law, not rules.
Exactly.
yeah, it's law. Yeah.
So I do have 2 restrooms and 2 entrances and exits. When I submitted that floor plan, they were not completed, so I did not include them because it was not real time. So
And your catalog would be need to be very clearly noted. You all don't have the catalog in front of you. I didn't receive everything timely, so that would need to clearly identify the separate restrooms, that kind of thing. And a board member, I believe, would need to go and see the space, just because we're talking about the space and you have a lot of questions. So
I do have a question regarding the catalog. I think okay. I sent an old one that I had updated, which was the original when I started the program. I do have a website that in this is very much an up-to-date catalog. And I had created one. I was having trouble with the size, sending that to Roxana and getting it to send. So I had a hard time, though, with kind of that checklist of what's required of the catalog. It's a very vague term, and I would love like kind of a punch list like the school requirements, like that she added or she sent, to where you could go down and check the boxes, but what is required in the catalog?
The list for items would be in the rules. And you probably would want to look at it from the point of view of policies.
Okay.
We've covered several of them. Sanitation is kind of one of those things.
But the restroom thing too, so like
that's listed in the regulations and law.
Okay. So you're saying my best bet would to go back through and highlight the specialty aesthetics requirements and add all of those things into a catalog form.
There are links to the Tennessee laws on LexisNexis through the
and I put that link on my catalog,
as well as the rules that we have. The most current rules are on there as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could easily put we have parking in the front and in the back. So it's
bathroom's not a problem. I don't see the bathroom as a problem.
So Becky, back to 624215. Is that a negative or is that a clear division of the space?
I don't know.
When I was at that crux of maintaining the space that I've been running the school out of and re-signing that lease, one of the things was I was not even aware that it was a possibility to have a school program in a running shop. I spoke to Roxana about that, and she said as long as it meets this criteria, which is basically what Rebecca just went over, that for a specialty school that would be, I would not be here today asking for it had I not been under the impression that it was something that was possible.
Board wants legal to look into it. That is also an option. We've done that before. I mean, the restroom wouldn't be an issue. It would be an interpretation that you're comfortable with, because it is your decision. It's a matter of how, I think, how it's divided to your point, and how it's presented then in the catalog and reviewed, and how clear it is to the students, right? It's all those variables.
And as well as to the public on knowing
Yes.
that whether or not they're dealing with a school or
Absolutely.
a professional business.
Mhm.
So,
It sounds like she needs to just give the updated plans because she said it has 2 entrances and 2 bathrooms.
Yes, and you can on the floor plan the rear entrance. And then there's a downstairs that's just one open space that's an alternative classroom. And I have just installed a working bathroom and an additional outside sink for that space as well. So. I'm sorry. Say I didn't hear the first part. The only conflict that I see is, taking away one of the shop days that can generate more revenue. In order to facilitate a clinic day for the students. That's really the only drawback that I see. But based on the stocking and supplying and paying the business decisions of paying so much more overhead and only using that space 3 days at a separate place, like I've invested a lot to create a space that could accommodate, both a specialty aesthetic school and maintain, a shop setting as well.
Shannon, did you indicate that you had a question about something as well?
I have some pending items that if the board decides to proceed and approve, that I need to make sure that I receive, because we did have documents going back and forth through links. The board office cannot go to a link to pull a document. And so it may be that we have it, it just hasn't reached me. So I will make sure, if the board decides to proceed versus listen and review it in February, that my checklist items are met.
Do you have any other questions or discussion?
Now, the floor plan, am I understanding correctly that your floor plan would need to be revised to accommodate?
It would be, that floor plan is accurate for the top floor. The down the stairs is now, like I said, a space that's been updated for extra classroom space and also has an additional restroom down there. That was not included because the 30 days to submit it, it wasn't finished then, so I wasn't going to submit it until it was finished. Or do you know what I'm saying? There's like that 30-day submission time.
One thing that kind of concerns me is the inspection for each of these, the inspection for the school versus the inspection for the shop. Are they going to be done on back-to-back days, one day for the shop, one day for the school? I think that probably is why the law was in place, and the way that it was written was so that we could separate those two. I'm really struggling with if it is legal for those two things to be in that exact same space. If there were a hard wall between the shop and the school, no problem. I think that it's going to really muddy the waters, especially for inspection on any given day.
And honestly, that's not a problem. I can put a sliding barn door on the front part, which would be the shop entrance, then have the rear entrance to be the school entrance. They would still be on completely separate days, but I would assume that any field inspector would have a license number for a school, and that would be what they were coming to inspect, or they would be coming to inspect a shop, and it would, they would do their inspection based on that license number.
So it's not necessarily about the entrance, although they do have to have separate entrances. It's the sharing of the space and the sharing of the equipment is what concerns me. I'm struggling with it legally. So I would like more legal clarity on if this is legal for these two things to occupy the same area.
May I ask just equipment? I'm confused by the equipment, like sharing the same equipment as you would for like regular shop clients.
So on certain days, licensed professionals would use the same equipment that students are using on opposite days.
Well,
cleaning and sanitation, it concerns me, like, what if one leaves it dirty for the other? Then who's responsible for at the time of the inspection? If it were a school issue, is that something that would be difficult to say, well, this is a school issue or this is a shop issue based on sanitation? I just think that it's a really difficult. I really think that legally, I think that there is some law that's in place that will either tell us, yes, this can happen, or no, it can't. And I don't know that there's anything. I'm not looking at rule. I'm looking at specific law. Rules we can kind of discuss. Laws we have nothing but to uphold whatever is in law.
So we're going to go back to the people we've already approved.
The schools that have been approved, though, let me be very clear, they're either in a salon suite and they have completely separate entrance and exits, but the equipment itself isn't shared necessarily. They're either in the back and they've got an equipment, or
that's not
separately.
a problem for me to facilitate that.
But I think Becky's point is wanting legal interpretation, because this is a full, not just apprenticeship, right? This is an actual aesthetic school, and legal can dive into that specific being the same address.
If you look at the floor plan, there's that center room that has 3 tables in it. I mean, I could easily, only allow 3 students at a time to use that space and exclude that from my, licensed estheticians from using. I'm the picture of flexibility to make this work, ultimately as a business decision to not have to rent a separate space.
Ms. West, if we just said none of the stuff we've discussed today was relevant or mattered, are you ready to open your school now, or are you looking at opening it in February? What would be your time frame if none of this occurred?
It is all dependent on what you guys decide today. Okay. So I have people who have reached out to me who are eager to enroll, and I told them I'm attending the board meeting to get this change of address, accepted or denied, and I'll get back to you. I also have held back from promoting any for people planning to maybe attend based on that.
This is space you already control.
Yes, I own the building.
Okay. So what I think I'm hearing is that we probably would like to have legal weigh in on this, come back with some kind of recommendation on the actual law and interpretation there. We don't hold anybody up very lightly. We just don't do that. But this may be one of those unique situations where we need to hold this up until we get a clarification on this end, and also give you an opportunity to submit the catalog, the documents and the items, any corrections that needed to be made. To present. The general. I'm not making a motion. If we feel like we've asked enough questions here for our applicant, we would need to have a motion from the board.
Okay, so can I make the motion that we would
You can make the motion. With an inspector.
Yes.
and a board member.
and a board member.
And let me just clarify, and it's just wording. Your motion is pending legals, but what you're wanting is an interpretation. If that's the case, the interpretation, does it need to come to me, or do the board members want to hear it? Because there's a big difference.
Caution on that.
But he's going to have to, right. Are they split?
Shortly after we started. Oh, I'm saying, you know, anyone that's listening to this, it might be a
Oh, no, I think one of the differences, maybe Roxana has already mentioned this a little bit, is how the abilities to have a little more flexibility with the specialty school versus the full form in class everyday school. So that may be one of the differences when you're inspecting shops.
On this subject. I know.
So that may be one of the things when we're going to shops and we see them together. It could be that it's one of those specialty schools. I don't know because I can't go to shops and schools.
You're missing all the fun, Ron. Well, and I would say to clarify, I've inspected so many schools. I have not.
Correct.
And I can accommodate for that, honestly. I have, both the equipment from the school and a shop and a communal space. It would just be, I would condense, or work with rearranging the times that the students would be in the clinic in just that middle space where only students are using that equipment, which I understand. And it's not anything I would have thought of until Rebecca did bring it up. So I understand.
Ms. Tankley's motion was pending legal. Is your intent pending legal guiding me to determine that it can be done? That's the piece that I want to, if we're motioning.
If we're asking for an interpretation, then we would need to have that interpretation presented to the board and then vote on that at a meeting based on that information. So that in essence would be postponing until
So it would
we
be
get
the
a
guidance
response.
from legal.
Yeah, I can.
Mr. Hugh, do you have something to add?
I'd like to chime in just for a second. I think we're getting a little too bit in the weeds on this, and I think the statute that Becky pointed out is on point. But it's really talking about, if you have separate entrances, if that can be resolved, there's not really an issue. And it sounds like the applicant here is being. I think she seems to have a plan to be able to resolve that issue. The equipment, the statute's not going to tell me that they can share the same equipment. But that's a sanitation issue that would be governed by the rules. But in terms of the floor plan, the application at hand here, if you have an updated floor plan, you have separate entrances, then 125C is not going to factor in as long as you're meeting the separate entrances aspect of it. Now, the separate equipment, I don't think, from a legal standpoint, I'm going to be able to determine that. You can look at rules under the Department of Health. Maybe they have something there, but in terms of our rules and our statute, it could be a sanitation issue, but it's more of a.
May I But the students are not allowed on the clinic floor until they've had 150 hours, which is based on sanitation, to use that equipment. And so at that, I would think that would factor in too. They're going to have that baseline. They're not starting on day one, meddling in the stuff that may be used on a straight up shop client, the next day or something like that.
On this,
excuse me, don't the hygiene rules, don't they apply to schools and shops? So, as long as they're cleaning the supplies, and
you have to have 150 hours first before you can even, start working on.
Well, just from a statutory standpoint, I can look at the floor plan and see, but visually, as long as there's separate entrances, then this particular statute's not going to come. It's not going to pose a problem.
also, you were talking about, having the basement space and the bathroom and the outside sink and so forth. What would be the options of you setting up the equipment for the students to do their practice work there?
There is a room downstairs that has 2 tables in it and the equipment in it. That would just be set. That would be more for clients, would not be going into that space. I would like to, I try to run the school like it's one of my businesses, like it's for real. It's not pretend, so that when they enter the workforce, they are ready to work when they're licensed. And so I wouldn't lower my standard to have those people come down to that basement room, but when they're switching out on each other, there is a space down there, another room that has 2 tables and a steamer and a towel warmer and all of that stuff, where they're going to be for the beginning of their hours until they've demonstrated, they have some proficiency to get up to the upstairs space. So there
Thank
is
you.
that downstairs.
Well, Amy, with
You're putting me on the spot, Ron.
with this additional information, does that affect your motion?
Yeah, I think this is fascinating. I appreciate you chiming in.
Number 2 inspection.
Inspections. We're doing a board member and field inspector. We already had a second.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ms. Judy. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Let me go through the list that I've got of items pending, and this isn't the full list because I have my own that wasn't completed, so we will leave mine alone for me to go through. The catalog is not here, so obviously that has to clearly explain the space, I believe, the restroom options, the days of operations, that kind of thing. Start and end dates, I think that was very clear and understood. The 3 years needed for the instructor program, I think. Did I miss anything?
Maybe some
The instructor
sanitation.
curriculum, do we find the instructor curriculum in there?
We can let the board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Did we find the instructor curriculum in there?
The instructor curriculum is there.
I believe, yeah.
The
Mark it
3-year
as
piece
corrected,
is
yes.
not. I don't believe in my notes that the instructor requiring a high school diploma as opposed to 10th grade was clearly noted, but I'll go through mine. But the sanitation policy, yes, you're correct. That needs to be added, and I think everything else was met. Okay. So those are the items that will be presented to me for review. And then a board member and field inspector will inspect.
Time-wise, that will be after you'll just...
Once I've reviewed all your documents and they're correct, then we start the 10 days, yes.
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you for working with us.
Members, let me know if you need to take a quick break. If not, we're going to proceed. We have all the continuing education for 2023 and then some items that aren't that lengthy after that. Are we good continuing? You all are so great. Okay. Next, yes, sir.
And if we could, can we
oh, yes.
Take a good 5 minutes here and let the members have a short break?
Absolutely. Those on our Teams call, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. That'll pause the streaming live, but please stay on the call, especially if you are to participate here in the next few minutes. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We are back and on the record. We're going to get started on your agendas. These are the online applications. I want to make sure that we have the first one appearing before you or that you're reviewing is page 333. Miss Amanda Manigold, are you with us? Okay, I did not think I saw her on the call. She received the letter saying that the board members had some questions. Given that she's not with us, I'll connect with her after the meeting, but we will skip over that. We will go on to our 2023 requests. If you'll give me a minute. They start on page 335. Before we get started, these are our providers that have, we're first going to do those that have offered continuing education. Many of our board members made it to the different sessions this year. Some were not able to. What I want to briefly say to the members is we generally get amazing evaluations. So we are in good shape, but I have seen, last year I saw a few and this year a few more that talk about the PSI presentation and then the board's presentation, no one being there at the meetings, right? The instructor's concerned that they're not understanding those two pieces. And we've discussed it as a board, the fact that a board member can't be at all those sessions because remember, some of our providers at some point offered 3 or 4 dates. And so it's expensive and it's difficult to make time. So now I'm seeing that comment from the educators that feel like they're not getting enough by us not being there to speak and present. A couple of the providers, I think, recorded the session, but it's not always the same because those questions are the important piece. For those of you that participated and got to see, that's where it's really important. If they don't understand, for example, the new law for dual instructors, that's something that at the sessions that I speak at comes up all the time and they really want to understand. So I'm bringing that up for us to think about as we approve the smaller providers that offer multiple dates. There's a great plus to offering all those dates. I think we agree because then you have a lot of flexibility. The downside is that I can't be at all of those. I think it's about 18 sessions because I do outreach for other professions that I've got to handle as well. So there's really no way. You all can't be at all of those. And PSI, this isn't part of their contract. They go to the big sessions and try to be available for the virtual ones, but it doesn't always happen. So it's just something to think about. What I did last year is asked all of our providers to take into account this concern and try to limit their dates. In other words, better market themselves so that the instructors have a clear vision of what's offered in May and June, July, and pick those dates ahead of time. And then market to our database because they all do public records requests to get our data and kind of pick and choose their dates. And last year, one of our providers went from 2 or 3 dates down to 1. So as you look through these, I want you to keep in mind, does it make sense to cut back maybe for the next year, just that concern to see how we try to meet it. Because for those instructors that are attending and there's only 2, Ron and I have been on a session with just 1 individual. And so that's tough. That's a tough 16 days. And those of you that have done the 16 days, when you don't have that extra networking opportunity and participation becomes hard. So that's my spiel. I'll let you review. The first item on your iPads is from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. This is the UT Conference Center. They have submitted the Instructor Continuing Education Seminar, and they're requesting Sunday, July the 16th and Monday, July the 17th. And this is an in-person only session. They did virtual, I believe the year of the pandemic and the following, but last year was virtual and this one is as well. And of course, we're blessed with Ms. Becky Russell, who participates in some of that agenda if you have any questions. But otherwise, I would just need an approval to accept this date and the agenda as it's written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you. That was a motion by Amy Tanksley and a second by Judy McAllister. Next on your iPads on page 338, this is the educators' success sessions. Ms. Stephanie Brown is on the call if you have any questions. She submitted the instructor training seminar for 2 virtual sessions, March 26th and 27th, and October 22nd and 23rd. She reduced hers from 3 to 2. Yes. Well, I point that out because I do think that you make a great point. I think some individuals actually think, and you board members maybe, I don't know, that you get paid, that you're really, this is a job kind of thing. And I immediately say you are very much volunteers for everything that you do and are expected to attend. They don't think you have to be there. I think a lot of the participants would love the opportunity to meet a board member and to hear from you. I think the expectation is more that I need to be there and PSI, but also a board member. And what we do, so as soon as we have these dates, I'll pass around the dates so you all can sign up to attend. But again, just like every other industry seeing a hard time getting positions, it is hard on you all to commit 16 hours to this. So I'm the first one that understands that. And on the sessions that I attend, I'm not there the whole 16 hours. Very honest. I mean, my portion is anywhere from an hour to 2.5, 3 maybe to go over everything.
So are you saying it with like this one is virtual? Are you saying that we don't have to sit there to watch all of the 16 hours?
No. I think what we'll do is the same as we've done is rotate and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to sign up for the 16 hours. Okay. What has happened in the past is we've had a couple of sessions where we split it. One board member went one day, another one went another day, and that worked out really well. Patricia and Ron, I think twice at least, have done that and really appreciated that. I think your participation is welcome by the providers, but I think it's a big ask because after you've gone so many times, it's just hard to do. I would say like we do with the schools, we pick and choose which sessions are important to see. Maybe some of the agendas have new material that we want to listen to, and definitely the sessions that are new, like we'll at the end of this have one brand new provider. But otherwise, if we've had a board member go almost every year and I don't think we have to sign up to go necessarily. I will still do my best to make. I've gone to every provider at least one session, one of theirs. And I try to do the early in the year. The downside with that is sometimes there's not a law change in January, February, or March, and we get one in July. And so when they record me, they don't have the important new stuff, right? Because like the instructor piece, that passed July 1st and it was very important. So the sessions after July didn't get to hear it. So on Ms. Brown, she's got the 2 dates. Do we have any questions? If not, we would need a motion.
Which one is hers?
She is, they're going to be virtual. Stephanie Brown starts on your iPad on page 338, March 26th and 27th, and then October 22nd and 23rd. And she's dropped down to 2 dates out of the 3 she's had in the past. And you are fine asking for more details. I have no problem with that. Ms. Brown, you're on the call, correct?
I am present.
Thank you. Yes, but I can. So the comment on your agenda was it really doesn't give us anything other than workshops and breaks. The agenda needs to spell out what the individuals will be signing up for, and the vast majority has to be teaching methodology, not all of it, of course.
Okay, it's the same content that I've presented from, when did I start this? Back in 2014. So it's teaching methodologies. The only thing that we change are our breakout activities because I have repeaters who come back every year, the same people I have sessions every year, but I have the people who, I have a rotating, so I see at least 50 plus of the same people who continue on. And so it's teaching methodologies, and I could revise the agenda, but it hasn't changed from 2016. The only thing that changed are our breakout activities when we go into breakout rooms.
I think to Ms. Tanksley's point, and because the mic isn't working, correct me, Amy, if I'm wrong, but if you don't mind, this agenda needs to be broken down as to the topics, what exactly each one is, and then on the breakout rooms, what they'll be doing in those breakout rooms as well.
Okay. When would you like me to send that over to you? I can get it over today, or would you like me to go over it right now?
No. Tomorrow would be fine. If the members are comfortable with that, I'll make sure that's updated, and then it'll be at Friday before I can get it on the website anyway.
Okay. I will do so.
That would be fine.
We have a motion and a second to approve pending the updates to the agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And that was a motion by Amy Tanksley and a second by Mr. Jeffrey Moran. Next on your iPads, we start on page 341. This is PBC Incorporated. The session is by Ms. Pearl Walker and Ms. Celeste Harris. They too are providers that have been with us for a while. They've submitted their information for the date of September the 24th and the 25th.
Make the motion to approve.
I have a couple of questions about this particular one.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not saying teaching methodologies it's kind of iffy. The other question that I have is about a class called permanent makeup. We don't typically do permanent makeup. That falls under the Board of Health because it breaks skin. So I'm a little concerned.
Great catch. If the board is comfortable, Ms. Celeste, are you with us? Okay. I could, similar to the prior approval, make sure that permanent makeup is replaced with something else. Is there anything else on the agenda that you see needs to be changed?
Checking for the teaching methodologies, I'm not really sure. I'm not saying within those names where that comes in. If she could just clarify in what classes that would be taught.
Since you pointed out things that we don't necessarily teach or cover on the second day, new trends, body contouring, is that something that the instructors need to be concerned about?
Not sure what that is.
Okay. I didn't want to seem
out
of line, not knowing the industry as much as you all do.
That's a good question, and I would like clarification for that.
In some other states, body contouring is part of this.
Now, she's got a September date. It could be if the board isn't comfortable that she can represent. Normally, we try before January to put this out there for the instructors that are picking their dates. Ron and I had this conversation. A lot still procrastinate and wait until the very last minute anyway, so I don't know that waiting until February to submit hers. If you want to re-see it, if not, I'm comfortable with her making those changes and sending it to me. I'll leave that up to you.
I think I'd like to see this one again, and if she's going to keep those two, a breakdown of what is being covered in those classes.
This is Pearl Walker. Ms. Walker was on the board. Okay, so we had a motion by Anita to approve this as is. Do we have a second, or do we want to change our motion?
I think I made the motion.
I'm sorry, Judy. I wrote it.
That's okay.
I heard the voice here. I'm sorry.
Yes, to reflect what Rebecca has said.
Okay, now she's having them represent in February.
That's
your
good.
motion? Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Judy McAllister for them to make the changes that I've noted, which would include body contouring, permanent makeup being removed, and specific details on the teaching methodology, and represent in February. And we would need a second. Second, Monica? and a second by Ms. Monica Lemons. Go ahead, Ron, I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On your iPads on page 343, we have TSU Avon campus. I wasn't sure if they'd be able to participate in person or virtually. They have presented their request for Sunday, August the 6th and Monday, August the 7th. Their session is scheduled to be both in person and virtual at this time. Last year, they were approved the same way. They ended up just doing it virtually, but their agenda's here. Yes. It's at the Avon campus right here, just down the street. Yes.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second, Mr. Moran? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. And that was a motion by Amy Tankling and a second by Mr. Jeffrey Moran. Thank you. Next, you have on your applications, I believe Ms. Anderson. And Ms. Anderson, are you on the call with us? She.
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Good
thank
morning,
you. Good
everyone.
morning. Thank you.
I had a disconnection, but I'm back. Thank you.
Thank you. This application starts on page 344. Ms. Kimberly Anderson has submitted her information for a total of 6 sessions. 5 of these are virtual. They are for January 21st and 22nd, March 4th and 5th, July 22nd and 23rd, August 19th and 20th, and October 14th and 15th. And she does an in-person session at Paul Mitchell, the school in Memphis. That would be on June 10th and 11th.
Roxana, based on the number of sessions that we're looking at on this one, I'd just like to be clear in setting our expectations for the attendees that it may not be possible for a member to be there for all those sessions. And if that's listed in their curriculum for the day, then it may be important to put a notation there so that whoever is purchasing that might know what they're getting.
And the board approves the session. We approve it has to be 16 hours, the breaks, all of that. But we don't look at what our instructors get, right? For those instructors that are here, you all probably are the only ones that see it. Well, I don't. So you make a great point. I think if you're offering 6 different dates, 5 virtually, what is your instructor seeing? Because in some of my conversations, when instructors, for example, don't take the CE during the 2-year renewal period, and we had several this year that actually took it after the effect, and you'll see one later that we have to present, and are very frustrated because they don't know, it's never explained. I talk about it at every one of my sessions because inevitably instructors miss that. They tend to procrastinate sometimes and not get it. But the concern that I've gotten lately this year is I've never heard you at a session. This is the session I attend. And when I look into it, it is the sessions closer to the end of the year, and they're right. I didn't attend it because I just can't make all of them. So I don't know that the instructors that pay the fee and sign up know that a board member, PSI, and the state will not be able to be there. That's a great point.
With all due respect, may I speak, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of the reasons for the number of dates that we have done over the years, a couple of things. Number one, as an industry, most of our instructors do wait to the last minute to schedule a session leading up to their renewal. The other thing is the dates that I've selected are based solely on the data of those that are renewing their license over that 2-year period. I actually added another date this year for that reason. Another thing that I'd like for you guys to consider as a board is we don't, as smaller providers, we may not be able to have the board members present in our sessions. And to be honest with you, based on my experience, The board members that have sat in on my sessions to review the program, I've had board members to actually pay to sit in on the sessions to get their credentials. I've had board members to come in and view the program. I've gotten great feedback. But none of them have never actually sat in for 16 hours unless they actually paid for the session. With that being said, also consider as smaller providers, and I can only speak for myself as a provider, my curriculum changes every 2 years. So, and I'm very strategic in doing that to give our instructors, because I'm an instructor as well, to give our instructors an opportunity to get new content every 2 years, make a choice based on what I have on the agenda, which list, whether PSI has been there in the past, and the agenda changes for each session based on who I have that I've already booked. So, and meaning who I have is Ms. Roxana and Lynn. I've been informed that Lynn does not have to participate in those sessions, which I just found out that information, but maybe for the smaller providers that are not connected to a university, maybe I have several suggestions for that, but with my sessions being on Saturdays and Sundays, normally I haven't had Lynn to be present with all that has been going on with COVID. However, as a school owner as well, I did have recording of that information broken down, split into different modules within my courseware, which was very beneficial based on the feedback I got from my students, which are the educators that supported this particular platform. So just things I would like to be considered for when you see the number of dates. I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about going forward with providing education for the state of Tennessee. And I'd like to be like those factors I just mentioned to be considered.
Thank you. I guess we need a motion to approve or deny. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I second.
Judy McAllister, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. The last item on the continuing education piece, this is a new continuing education provider. Ms. LaShawn Thompson, are you still on the call?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon.
It is now afternoon.
It is afternoon. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Board members, you have this on your application on page 346 on your iPads. This is a new continuing education provider. The title is The Competent Educator. She submitted information for a seminar on May the 21st and 22nd. Her experience and agenda for the 2 days is provided. Because this is a new session, I will make sure that we do have a board member attend to make sure that this meets your requirements or expectations. And she wanted to have more than one date at this time, but I said, once the board members agree that this meets teaching methodology, then we can look at the following year. So do you have any questions for her? She's been patient with us on the call, but then I would need a motion to approve. Hers is virtual as well. Am I correct, Ms. Thompson?
Yes, ma'am. It's going to be virtual this time, and then hopefully if I'm approved, then we'll do something different. Next year is what I'm saying, not this time.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's a great point. So, and Ron probably has owned a school and taught the longest, maybe, not to say, but back in the day, there were only three. So there were the main universities. There was Memphis, the University of Memphis, and they have discontinued their continuing education path altogether. UT Knoxville has always offered it, and then TSU, and that was it. So if you missed the summer sessions, that was it. So our instructors were used to taking it on an odd or even year, and that was the Bible. As we started offering more sessions, we really messed them up in a way because they really wanted to be told when to take it. The downside to that is if you had a child or an emergency that summer, right? You had to retest. So we had a lot more instructors retesting. It was really a disadvantage. But they don't like knowing they've got the 2 years. It was really nice when it was set in stone. But to your point, I think 3 was just not enough. It was only the summer. And if you missed it, you were out of luck. Now we are, Ms. Kimberly's session for January, we have 2 people ready to take in January because otherwise they'd expire and waited too long and so forth. So they're all year. I think December we've never had a course, which is probably a good thing. But otherwise, every month has a session. Could whoever's on the call, could you mute yourself? Thank you. All right, go right ahead, Ms. Tanksley.
A lot of these are.
I think only one has been virtual in Memphis in the last 2 or 3 years. They're all virtual. That's the plus. And I'll be honest, I think when we rotate the dates, we rotate it once, and if a board member is interested in attending the 2 days, they do. But if not, then then that's it. I will fit in one, and I can commit to that to every provider. I will attend one of their sessions, preferably in the beginning of the year. But I definitely don't expect Lynn to attend in person. She comes in person to one because she has seen the benefit to that one, and it's pretty big. But she also can't call in on Saturdays and Sundays, right? She travels all week, etc. So we'll ask for her participation. I will commit to one for each session, but you members are totally at your discretion. You can attend. Yep.
I just take cash, no checks.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Over and above volunteers. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. I will continue to approve these.
I think it's a fair statement.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So we approved that one.
No one, I don't have motions. No, we need a motion. Yes.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And congratulations, Ms. Thompson. We have a motion by Ms. Monica Lemons and a second by Amy Tanksley. Yes.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Just a minute, Ms. Anderson. And for this one, I will ask a member to sign up because it is a new one, and then we'll go from there. Ms. Anderson, you had a question? You're on mute. Did you have a question, Ms. Kimberly Anderson?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I'm sorry. I actually had a comment and maybe a suggestion based on the minutes from last the meeting from October. If we would consider maybe with the comment you just made about the number of CEU provider meetings that the board members, Lynn, as well as yourself, could attend, is it possible to consider the same way Lynn does a presentation for all of the schools, giving an update and keeping us abreast on things that have changed with PSI as well as the state? Is it possible for us to have that as instructors? And I'm speaking as an instructor at this point. Is that possible for us to have like a round table maybe once a year or twice a year where we're updated on different things? Because I just feel like with the direction that we're headed due to COVID, with the virtual platforms, the in-person platforms, I'm not sure what the numbers are on that as far as attendance of those in-person platforms as we're getting back to post-COVID. Is that something that the board will consider, where we could ask questions as instructors as those laws are changing and those updates are coming forward?
If I could, two different things. PSI has nothing to do with the law, so they would not speak on behalf of laws or rules ever. PSI has our testing vendor, and so as a private company, we can ask Lynn to present something with COVID changes and the recent change, the drastic changes to the exams. They presented 3 different sessions, so hopefully people attended and were available. We can ask. I have no problem asking Lynn or anyone in PSI for them to present something and have something recorded that they can offer for our instructors on updated on the exams, pass-fail success rates, questions that have come up. How's the virtual testing going? Are they seeing more cheating? I mean, various topics, and ask them to record and answer those questions and present. That's something we can do. It's not part of their contract, so I don't know that they don't have to do it, but we definitely can ask it. I mean, you make great points. I think when the PSI exams were drastically changed, it was very good to see everything that Lynn explained in her presentations. And the downside to them recording them, Kimberly, so I understand because I did all 3 of hers, the questions were different, and some of the questions, could be argued and could end up being contested at some point. So it gets tricky sometimes because of the changes and different things with the testing vendor. So I think that might play a role. But
okay. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think oftentimes, as you were saying, that it's more beneficial for yourself or Lynn to present at those universities because the number of people are greater. But if you're doing the numbers with the smaller providers, they're somewhat equivalent to the number of attendees that are at those universities. So it's just something to consider, especially even as an instructor, because even if I choose as an instructor not to attend one of the universities and I go with a smaller one, then there is a possibility that I can miss out on information. But if we did it as a whole for all of the instructors, the same way that she does it for the schools, which I'm not sure when she does it for the schools, if that's part of her contract or not, but just something to definitely consider. But thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have a motion and it carried? We're good?
It carried. Motion carried, yes.
Okay. If the board is good, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Underhill. We are on the legal report next on our agenda. If you haven't switched over, just make sure to tap somewhere in the middle of your iPad, and under the library, you'll see the legal report. We have 71 cases. Michael, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, board.
Hello.
On these 71 cases. Before we do, I do need to point out to the board item number 28. This is a school case, cosmetology and school case. I had recommended a letter of warning for unprofessional conduct for failing to respond to a complaint and some other items after that. I need to update the board that we did receive a response from the school. Basically, the school is saying that they need additional time. Roxana, correct me if I'm wrong. The board approved a year ago a change of location for this school, and they have, in the meantime, still been trying to get their ducks in a row, getting the school ready for an inspection. And so in the meantime, they've been performing virtually with the students. So the good news is we did get a response. I'm going to change the recommendation to a letter of instruction for unprofessional conduct due to the late response and not communicating with the board. I'm on item number 28.
And
Legal.
Be inspected. So the applications live for 6 months, so it has long expired, but the board approved them. As long as the floor plan and everything matches what they approved, we can open that application again, not charge them an additional fee, and go to inspect. So that's the hope. But so far, the additions or changes she was making aren't finished, and so a year since you approved them.
She hasn't opened.
Correct.
She's gone to
Using a hybrid model, just virtual. I think the number of students are limited, but it's, yes. Now, the location, the address, her previous, and correct me, Mike, if I'm wrong, but I think her previous address, she's no longer in at all. She's at the new school, but it's not finished and ready to have the students physically there. So she has a physical location. I don't know if a student had a question or was concerned, wanted to review before the exam, if she'd be able to see them in person. I don't know that because we've not been able. Cosmetology school. She is. She is reporting hours. I had one report that was late, and then the complaint, and then the phone number not working. So I reached out in a, today I need to hear back concern, but we did hear back. We got a response, and I don't think that there's a lot of students, but.
Did she give any indication of how much longer it might be?
She does not, because she is still waiting. Well, she still has delays in construction items and obtaining equipment. She's getting the school completed as quickly as possible.
Was it initially a change of location?
Yes.
Well, then
Yes.
equipment shouldn't be an issue. If she had a location, she probably had the ability to move her equipment.
Something came up because the floor plan clearly always shows the equipment. You should, if you're being presented to the board, you should be ready to open soon after the board meeting, but something wasn't there.
I think what immediately comes to my mind is that the board, at least myself, anticipates that when we approve a change like this, that it is something that's in a fairly rapid process that is going to take the necessary steps to completion in a short amount of time, since we are obligated to inspect within 10 days after they open. Then there's a time frame there. So if the approval expired in 6 months, I'm thinking.
Well, the transaction that application does, and we're probably saying the same thing, just different terminology. Yeah, it wouldn't matter, but I don't think they are. And by wouldn't matter, yeah.
I don't think that's what we envisioned whenever we have approved
I
this.
never even bothered to ask that question. I assume.
Moving forward at a pace that's a business-like manner. So, are they enrolling new students?
our communication mine was limited because I had concerns by the time I reached him with the phone number not working. So I would imagine not, but the recommendation can include some of those points. Mike, do you agree? And to Ron's point, he's right. When a school comes before you, I mean, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 months before I can get them here. I mean, I'm communicating nonstop with them. So generally, by the time you see it, it's where the application and the applicant's going to get me just about everything they can, and they're usually ready. On occasion, I think we've had 1 or 2 that had floods, that had damage, and so they had to move. And so, you know, depending on how drastic the move was, if it's a suite over, we've had to sometimes represent them. If the floor plan's completely different, we'd have to represent them. But this is an exception. I did not know that the doors weren't open.
Can I throw this out there? Can we also find out from her what are the delays? What is the specific equipment that she's
expectation of when to open?
Yeah, these are questions directly from the board.
No, this is one of those rare cases where I think I would like to hear from the owner directly, whether they appear in front of the board or electronically. I think we've got some questions to ask this person to get some foundation, because again, if that application has expired, or whatever that terminology would be, if that's expired by that length of time, and certainly we've got students out here for a year, when our expectation, I'm sure I speak for the board with this, was that it would be a short-term transition period. We don't normally anticipate being 6 months or more.
But your concern is for before we inspect and open the school, have her appear before, separate from the complaint. Because remember, your complaint's redacted. You don't know if this is a school right there. Or, so let the complaint process live its course.
My concern is that the change of location has expired.
She's not alone, though. I mean, we've had a couple expire by the 6th month, and then be ready to inspect because of family emergencies. Right now, this is longer, and it had been so long since I heard. Quite frankly, I just thought the school wasn't going to move. Right. Yeah. We would need to make sure that Mike has guidance on the complaint, and then you guide me on what to do when and if the school's ready to be inspected.
I mean, I can send a letter with all of these. I can send a letter with all of these points, but we're still doing the virtual option.
Right. Well, your recommendation was to change to a letter of instruction.
Yes.
Okay.
We did get a response, albeit late.
Inspected.
Correct. That would be any change of location. That is correct.
Their previous license has expired.
No, she
renewed.
Their
license is still current.
It's active until September.
Absolutely. All cosmetology schools,
okay, so
expire at the same time.
Roxanne, I think we have 4 options: monetary penalty, suspension, revocation, or failure to or not renew them. Which, of course, that's going to be a while. Yeah.
Original license, was it for a virtual program?
Well, none of our licenses are for virtual, right? They allow the flexibility since COVID to teach virtually, right? So March 2020, we allowed that option, but no. So, and I don't recall her change of location. It would have been December after COVID. She possibly had some hybrid model to use Zoom or whatever.
What we're really saying is right now, we don't know if they're doing symmetrical, asymmetrical.
Correct.
What their
That is
control over the program is. You're right. We do have 2 issues here. First of all, the complaint and the letter of instruction. I believe that certainly that's probably a way to go with that. But will that put an end to this complaint, administrative or otherwise?
Maybe what about an administrative complaint on those issues and start a new file on that? And then we can request a response to, are you enrolling new students? What are the specific delays? What is the specific equipment that you're waiting on? And then what is the estimated time frame till we can inspect?
I like that. If the board agrees, unfortunately, I open administrative complaints on different things, but that makes sense because it's about the license itself and the students. And so,
correct.
Correct. Ready.
Which sounds like that might be a question that we'll add to our list.
How far are you going, and when will you be open?
And Roxanne, I guess based on that answer that we get, maybe they need to show up at the next meeting.
Right.
So
that becomes tricky only because the legal case has to live its own piece separate from the licensing, but they would appear before the board for a change of location. Now, you all would connect the pieces. How many schools do we have that expire after a year, that kind of thing. But the complaint, I like if it's a letter of instruction, is Mike adding more details to the letter of instruction, or is that just going to close with a letter of instruction and I separately deal with the points in the administrative?
I agree with Roxanne on that. I'd like to do the letter of instruction only on the late response and not communicating with the board, and close this piece and then open this other piece.
And by February, you all will see it on the legal report. As you know, we've got shops that we don't get to present for 4, 5, 6 months because of our volume of complaints in shops, right? And that number. But the schools can be moved differently, so we'll do that. And that's not something that occurs. I've had one other school, as a matter of fact, because you all just recently approved it, that had presented, wanted to open, never did. And so that just expired and they were done. And 3 years later, reapplied. So that could happen for a new school, right? This hasn't. I mean, I really expected that she stayed at her other address, right? Because when you move, that doesn't mean that you've packed up your equipment and really moved. You're presented to the board, they approve you, and then at some point, you go ahead and move all your things and close the school. And so I don't think it's something we need to worry about. But again, now it's something I'll keep thinking about, right?
Well, and Roxana, if it even gets that far at the next meeting, I would authorize, I mean, we could send out a monetary civil penalty or move further.
So that was number 28.
Yes, one. And I told you all we'd be done at a good hour. I apologize. Hopefully you had a good breakfast.
70 more to go.
Seems like we're seeing lots and lots more of people making complaints where somebody's working out of their home or their apartment or whatever, and I guess our hands are tied.
Mike, on number 26, I kind of have a question in the back of my head. This is the school that has been accredited, and it appears may have given up or rescinded their accreditation for whatever reasons. Now they're just asking the students to make some payments of some type. Okay, so that's outside of our... $29 is not connected to 28. Would that be correct?
It is not.
Okay. 32 is regarding a student. Or was this person a student or not?
They were a cosmetology student.
Just not in an apprenticeship?
Not in an apprenticeship program.
.41, that is an issue with our call center.
Yes, that was through the call center.
Threats or uncertain.
I was advised to not listen to it, and that has to be pretty bad for me to not listen to it. I've heard some horrible calls, and so John did listen to it. I believe Mike did.
Chairman Gillahan, from what I can remember, I think I would have remembered a threat. I think it was more just colorful language.
I listened to it as well. It's just a lot of statements. I mean, not threatening stuff, just sort of random.
And we're dealing with a female licensee, but we're having sounded like a male to me on the telephone. So.
We don't have any idea who that licensee might have been. I guess in my mind I'm thinking unprofessional conduct or letter of warning, but I don't know what level it goes to.
Well, the problem that I have with that is sending a letter to somebody. I mean, it was not a female voice. I just
not sure who it was.
I mean, it could have been somebody with an axe to grind against that female licensee.
Makes sense. Hard to drag all this out today.
We've got a lot. I think on any of the cases where the unprofessional conduct has crossed over, it's been if our field inspectors have been threatened. I'm trying to, I should have caught who this 41 licensee is. If there are threats, I think we have mostly just done letters of instruction, something along those lines, if the board is comfortable with that, simply because I do view it as customer service. You all can imagine handles hundreds of calls a day, and if it's the call I'm thinking about, just the overbearing and the unprofessional conduct, that is difficult. If Mike's okay with a letter of instruction,
that's fine. I remember a case out of East Tennessee specifically writing a letter to that individual. Yeah.
And I guess I'm kind of up to 67, maybe in 68, that represents.
Yes, I was expecting questions on that one.
I remember this case. That individual left the country. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes. I spoke with his then criminal defense attorney. I even checked his Facebook page and kind of saw a going away email to all of his American friends. I just don't think there's any incentive to come back. But if he does and reapplies, obviously we'll know that way. Or if he tries to re-enter, he'll be arrested. And I would suspect some of the people in Memphis would maybe bring him back up to our attention.
License suspension can be for a definite or indefinite term, so I see your recommendation here. I think that's fine.
Could I ask you one why we're not applying an unlicensed fine to that?
A notice of violation was not issued. If I remember this correctly, and I have to, I realize every case rises and falls on its own facts. We have the no notice of violation issue, and I think it was true ignorance maybe with that particular individual, where they counsel them, and then I can also go back and recheck, or we can send somebody out there to reinspect for the license. Let me do that. And and we will still send the letter of warning. And reinspect.
On YouTube, they could. But anyway. Which one's higher?
Chairman Gillihan, we have the amendment to 28, obviously,
Yes.
and we now have the amendment to 53.
41, we're going to do a letter of instruction. Is that correct on 41?
Even though it was a male voice on the line.
I can see that's a little sketchy right there. We want to make sure anything goes to the correct person. So I think there's probably enough doubt that it could have been the actual licensee to let that one lay. Call done on that. Anybody else, please? Talk. Well, if there are no other changes or questions on the legal report, we would need a motion to approve with the changes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Michael.
Mike, we have a motion by Monica Lemons and a second by Frank Gambusa. That concludes the legal report. Thank you, Mr. Underhill. We will get back onto the presentation on your iPads, if you will, board members. We are on our applications for exam, and these start on page 350. Your applications for examination are for Jordan Bevels Gerber, Dietrich North, Quentin Prim, and Marcavius Houston. These applicants have felonies within the last 3 years and or are incarcerated. The request is for them to take the Tennessee examination. They have submitted to the board a disclosure statement regarding the felony charges and a letter of recommendation. The board does routinely approve an agreed order for a probationary period of a 2-year license, unless you decide to do otherwise. I welcome any questions. Otherwise, once you've reviewed these, I would need a motion to approve and get the agreed orders out.
We have a motion by Ms. Tanksley to approve with an agreed order for the 2 years and testing. Properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That motion was by Ms. Amy Tanksley and the second by Ms. Lane Petty. And my iPad is now awake. We are next on our reciprocity applications. We have one before you starting on page 367. This application is for Ms. Sydney Sautt. She is a military spouse that is relocated to Tennessee. Ms. Sautt completed her cosmetology education in New Jersey. The requirements in that state are 1,200 hours. She took her theory exam, but due to COVID restrictions, the practical exam stopped being offered in New Jersey. All she needed to have done instead of taking the exam per the New Jersey requirements was to work 30 days in a shop and that they would sign off on her experience. During that time, her husband was transferred to Tennessee. So she is not able to complete the training that would have given her the license in New Jersey. She is now living here. She reached schools, or at least one school closest to her area, and the minimum hours they want her to take is 375 hours. The cost of those hours was more than what she paid for all 1,200 in New Jersey. So we recommended that she present her information to you for review. This is a little bit of a unique situation because she doesn't actually have a license to apply for reciprocity, but given the military statutes, the military flexibility that we have, we believe that she falls in that pocket. She did complete her education in another state. She did take one of the two exams. Between COVID and her husband's transfer, she wasn't able to complete the practical. So my recommendation would be either that the board approve her or she take the practical exam here in Tennessee. Can't hear you. Just the practical? Okay.
I second that.
Ms. Tanksley, you made a motion to have this applicant test for the practical, and it was seconded by Ms. McAllister. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On our miscellaneous applications, we have two applicants. We start on page 367. The first one is a request to waive the need to retest. This is pursuant to 0440-1-.10, which states that an applicant must apply for and pay for their original license within 6 months after passing the examinations. The board may, for good cause, waive the requirement. The board previously has authorized me to allow extensions up to 6 additional months for a total of a full year for good cause. Ms. Carolina Gill Soto has provided an explanation saying that her immigration status and her work permit were paused and took longer than she expected, all outside of her control. She has since then completed her verification for immigration purposes, and that is passed. Her actual practical exam was done in August 7th of 2019. I believe she's actually even already paid for it. Because of the immigration status, we couldn't approve the license, and now the time has lapsed. But she is ready, if the board approves, to get her license, and she wouldn't need to retest. If we do not, she'd have to take both her exams again.
We have a motion and a second to approve the license. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have one more miscellaneous request. This is, I believe, starts on your iPad on page 379. This is a request to waive the statute pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated 62-3-124B, which states that a barber instructor may for good cause be granted up to 1 additional year to complete their 16 hours of continuing education. This statute is very unique to the barbers. The cosmetology statute does not allow for this additional year, so that's the reason that I'm bringing it before you. The board may, for good cause, such as medical hardship or death in the immediate family, approve such an extension. If you read the information provided by Ms. Rosemary Taylor, she had both of those situations going on. She's provided a letter explaining the tragic life changes that she went through. She last completed her continuing education in June of 2018 for her December 31st, 2019 renewal cycle. In 2021, she did not complete the instructor requirement for continuing education, nor did she ask for an extension. And obviously, we now know she had a lot going on in her life. So her instructor portion was removed from her license. She did not notice until November that the instructor portion was not on there. Had she asked for the extension, December 2021 would have been the last time she would have been able to get this extension. So I'm bringing her before you. Her request obviously is at the bottom of page 339, and the documents after that show kind of what all has happened in her record with her requests. $379, I apologize. She is asking, begging the board for consideration of this extension. She did not request it timely, but had she, you would have still had the month of December for her to have this 1 year. When she renewed in 2021, she didn't have the requirement or an extension, so she automatically lost that instructor. She would have to test. She would have to take the theory, which is on the laws and rules, and then the practical. And so she's asking the board this consideration. Correct. If you do, then we add the instructor piece back. If you don't, she has to take the reinstatement exams. There would be no extension. She actually has already taken it. Good. We had to really dig and look at the timeline to understand that the 2019 period would have ended 2021, but she would have had until December 2022. So I'd be comfortable presenting it to you. So, Ms. Tankley, we've got a motion to approve this request. Is that correct?
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the request for licensure, for reinstatement, I guess, or extension. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I've got Ms. Amy Tansley with a motion and a second by Mr. Jeffrey Moran, and so her license will get her instructor portion added back on. And we're just about wrapping up, and then I want to make sure the board members have time for any questions you have. On page 388 of your iPads, this is the final year closing for fiscal year 2021-2022. We have added $151,905 to the reserve, bringing the final surplus at $1,299,621. I'm comfortable with that figure, and I say that because there's no perfect balance to have in the reserve. Generally speaking, your reserve should have 2 times what your expenses are. Our expenses are in excess of $2 million, so clearly we don't have a big reserve. But we purposely, when the fees were raised, wanted to be very conservative with fees raised. I remember Mr. Gambusa saying, but you're lowering some of the fees. I'm nervous, Rox. We don't lower fees, but we're juggling that.
I would take his advice on that one.
So I think we're comfortable. We streamline anywhere we can. And then the last item for your review would be the July, August, and September numbers. That adds an additional $39,345 to the final reserve of $1.3 million. So, if nothing, you all are very, very efficient with the cost. We're not frugal. We watch those expenses, but I think we're still at a good place.
Amy, we should be getting paid for those visits. I mean, sitting on one tree doing nothing.
It's our team. My team's amazing.
Great job.
Is there any way Becky's phone that does work could move over to you so that your questions can be heard? Thank you, Mona.
I have a question to the board that primarily the school owners, teachers, instructors, are we teaching henna brow tint in the schools? Henna, are we teaching that? Are we regulating that?
Our statute doesn't regulate henna.
Oh, does the health board, would we know? Okay.
I don't. I think if the board office received that call, we would say, here's our statute for you to review. Our statute doesn't envision or touch on it. It doesn't say you can't, and it doesn't say you can. Contact the health board would be a thought. And I don't think we've had maybe 1 or 2, right?
I've had more than that. Yeah.
And I don't know enough about it to be able to say what the downside would be. We don't want to over-regulate, but if there's cost for harm, then we would, and that's where, if you remember, the microneedling, microblading came to us.
Not applied with microneedling. So
correct. No. But I mean, the reason we asked for an attorney general's opinion and really focused on that is because there was the concern for injury to the public.
Is it a henna product?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but I've had to
Natural
refer
products.
to my derms on.
And it
everything
isn't
that comes
permanent,
across.
correct? So.
So it's considered a vegetable dye, according to the cosmetology textbook.
From the knowledge. First day I met you.
All of those things require a skin patch test. If they're allergic to it, obviously you would not move forward. If they're not, then but that being said, the patch test being legal issue.
We're not going to hear those cases or anything. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, this board doesn't have any jurisdiction over henna. I mean, it's so akin to face painting.
Well, I was just wondering about, cosmetology, because I know in aesthetic schools we're not teaching.
Well, if they performed henna, if a cosmetologist performed henna, I mean, it wouldn't be. It's not inside their license. I mean, it's you look up cosmetology, estheticians, all of that. I mean, it's defined what those activities are, and henna's not one of them. So
It is just hair coloring. I'm not going to speak recommendation using it or not, but I'm saying I can't imagine there would be a legal issue with it.
Well, the negative part of it is I have seen some strong allergy to it, and it leaves a pigment change in the actual skin that I'm been contacted by medical professionals and consumers about removing it with a laser tattoo removal process. But henna's not, it has a red pigment in it, which is not really that's the best way to explain. But it is truly, the allergy part is, it's impressive. I hadn't seen anything do that much damage in a long time.
Have anything else, Roxana?
I have nothing else. You all have been incredible. It's been a long meeting, a lot covered. Thank you so much.
I think we've had a good year. We're winding this one down. We'll meet again when in February. Is that right?
February the 6th, that first Monday in February. I will see all of you here.
Safe travels and happy holidays to everybody. I truly enjoy seeing all of you when we're down here. And I promise I'd rather not have to say anything in these schools. So
we need you to go through and say it. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
12:55. Merry Christmas all. Thank you, Judy.
Yeah, life's moving fast.